Okay. Greetings, everyone. Calling the November 22nd, 2024 Planning Board session to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
The Secretary is here. Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
Board Member Glazer is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any minutes, Gloria?
We do not.
No minutes?
We did not get last week's
Okay.
meeting minutes done yet.
Okay. Town Board number 1, that referral is off the agenda. Okay, everybody has it. And so we're going to close the regular session and go into a work session. And the first on order is the 2 trees.
Good afternoon, Karen Kate Murphy, attorney for the applicant here, Roman Martu, who's a member of Hayground Road Development LLC, and also I have another attorney, co-counsel, Nika Strunk.
Great.
And-
Whose application is this in the planning department? Anthony?
You might remember we had a little meeting, some changes that occurred at the property. We had deemed the application incomplete because they had submitted to address those changes through an administrative site plan process. Janice didn't want to do administrative, referred it to this board. We deemed it incomplete, because we need more information, get an interpretation from the town board or from the attorney's office.
Town engineer
And the
as
town
well,
engineer
right.
concerns, and I guess subsequent to that, there have been some changes to the site, and they want to present it to the board.
Okay.
This is what so what's being handed out is what the proposed changes are for the subdivision, and Nika's gonna go into more detail, but basically there was an issue with the sand ring that was almost built. It's now gonna be returned back to grass, and the other 2 rings are gonna be, are still proposed. And Nika's gonna give a little history of it, but one interesting thing, which I hate to jump to, but originally when it was approved, where the sand ring was, that's where next to that building, that's where the manure would go. Just piled up, and it's anyhow, we'll get to that, but that's what they did.
I would just like to start from the beginning,
Okay.
so that we're all on the same
Okay.
page. As I remember, one of the issues with this was that work had been done, soils had been moved, drainage areas had been impacted. Am I correct, Anthony? Give us just 2 seconds of a background on it.
Yeah, so basically what it was the activities that were occurring, the regrading, the beginning of the installation of the outdoor rink were occurring within areas of the easement.
The easement. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Drainage easements, there's a conservation, an ag easement, so it was the activities occurring within those areas outside of developable portions that were previously approved.
So what we're looking at now is a revision of that plan where you
Yes.
pulled back and.
Yes, because it was deemed incomplete because the town attorney's office or the town engineer didn't have time to review it, to interpret the easement, the conservation easement, which we have.
Yeah, I'm
But
just gonna
she's
say-
gonna start from the beginning.
Okay.
Take us up to.
So has
High
has our council reviewed this conservation easement?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So the property is a 63-acre horse farm. It's had site plan approval to operate as a horse farm for 30 years, since 1994 it was originally issued. The property was subdivided in 2011, and the prior owner, David Valentis, created 17 residential building lots and a 63-acre horse farm parcel, which is what our client now owns. And at that time, this board issued a construction permit / special exception approval for the horse farm. Hayground Road Development LLC purchased the property 2 years ago. They're dedicated to continuing the agricultural equestrian use of the property, and they're here to work with the town as good neighbors to ensure that all of the elements of their operation have the current required approvals. So, in May, we presented an application to this board for 3 new engineered sand rings. Since then, we have reviewed the site plan, and we've decided to make some changes to what we're requesting. We've also made some updates to the site plan to ensure that it accurately reflects the current configuration of all elements of the horse farm operation. So the first major change is from 3 sand rings to 2 sand rings. As Anthony mentioned, there was a misunderstanding, and the client thought that it was unnecessary to get a permit for the sand ring that began construction. Since then, he's reconsidered the configuration and the way he wants to use the site, and he is going to return that partially constructed ring to grass and restore the condition.
Anthony, do you have that?
I
Oh, you haven't
noticed
seen
it,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
Do you
new.
have one of these? Because I'm looking at this and seeing 3 sand rings, so that's why I'm curious.
Well, one is existing.
You have 1,
That's
2,
Well, you see, if you look, it's like to the right of the main riding arena. It says restore partially built sand ring back to grass. So that's going to disappear, that sand ring. There will be 2 new ones. One is right to the south of the main riding arena. There will be a new sand ring there. And there will be a new sand ring to the south of that, in between the recharge areas, and it will be completely, these rings will be completely outside of any drainage easement areas. So the drainage easement concern that was raised with respect to the one that began to be built is removed. There's no issue with the drainage easement. These new rings are located entirely outside of that area.
does that show in dotted line anywhere on here?
Yeah, the before and after would be a
Yeah.
helpful
Yes,
comparison.
because we don't know what we're looking at.
rings.
Well, hold on. This is the before and after is restore partially built sand ring back to grass. That's the before, and then after is going to be grass. That's
Wait a
what.
second.
That's
why
the current outline.
It's got
Okay.
a hashed outline, and it's located over the drainage easement area.
Okay, but on the upper left of the existing sand ring, no change.
That's correct.
In the middle, existing sand ring, no change.
Right.
And then new sand ring,
Correct. 2
and then
new
new
sand.
sand ring, so I've
That's
got
proposing
4.
2. So we're proposing 2 new ones.
Okay, I thought I only
And
had
how many altogether?
4.
4.
That's right.
2 existing, 2 new ones.
Correct. So that's the rings. I mean, this is obviously a completely normal and typical accessory to a horse farm use. All the horse farms in this area have these sand rings because the engineered sand has become the standard for modern horse farms for safety. They provide safety to the horses and riders because the footing is better and the surface is softer in case of a fall. They're also better for drainage because sand is more permeable than grass. And so we feel that 2 additional sand rings is very reasonable given the 63-acre size of this farm. No topsoil will be removed from the site. I know that has been a concern. There will be no topsoil removed from the site in connection with these new sand rings. All the topsoil will be saved and reused on the farm at the site.
So you do excavate the soil and put sand down?
I believe so. I mean, I'm not a.
Yeah, to some extent, we take a little bit and then we regrade around the rings to basically make it more.
See, I think you should tell us how many cubic yards of topsoil you're
Something
taking away.
removed.
It says on the plan, Yes, thank you, George, thank you,
Of sand to be brought in.
yes.
Yeah, but I understand the question on how many,
How much is being
How many should-
excavated
yeah.
out?
but what's being excavated again is just being used around the sand ring to regrade and things like not.
Just give us a number, because the
Absolutely.
soil is
Yeah.
important.
Okay, so that's why we're here, is to, to hear the board's feedback, so that we can, make any changes that.
Can I ask you a question
Of
though,
course.
before we go any further, because
Yes.
I'm a little bit surprised about why we're here, but what are you asking this board to do, like change any of the easement description, or what goes
No,
on in the
no,
easement, so what are
no.
you asking them to do?
This is, we had a pending site plan application. That's gonna be withdrawn, and this is the revised site plan application that we're gonna submit.
But does any of I'm just trying to, what's the distinction between what this site plan request would be asking for versus what was asked for in the first one, which
We
is
were-
where we were going through all this back and
We
forth
were
and had
inside
other
the drainage.
departments?
Yeah,
We
What?
were inside the drainage easements before.
Okay,
Now we are outside,
correct.
okay,
and also we reduced the quantities, the amount of things.
so we're not changing any of the easement language
No.
that the town board issued, or any descriptions or
No.
meets and bounds,
No.
you're only talking
No.
about the site plan conditions of this board?
Exactly.
Correct.
Do you have the easements there you can pass out?
I can certainly, I have the conservation open space easement,
Those are the town board ones though.
But I can tell you the drainage easement at this point is not, is a separate issue. It's unconnected to this application,
We're
because
not.
nothing is
Well,
going
just,
in.
if I,
Yeah,
just, you know, you don't, obviously this wasn't submitted formally to us.
I understand.
Before
Yes.
we say, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you have a new sand ring that you said you're excavating and bringing in, some sand, touching all three drainage areas. I mean, literally wedged in, and our engineer has to review that. 'Cause
Right,
they're just,
Yes.
you know,
sure.
well, I don't wanna state on the record that there's no drainage issues, or it's not a fit for tow
No, we're
No,
not, we're
no,
not saying
no.
that at all.
But in terms of the described drainage easement areas that runs to the town of Southampton, this is not, they are not being impacted. This will be constructed so that there is no impact to those areas. That's my
Yes,
understanding.
and I believe anything over an acre of disturbance needs to have a SWIP.
Yeah.
So that will also address any kind of runoff or drainage. And
Also,
that will be part of the
One
process.
of the issues with this site, when we did the site plan, and it's probably the record, Anthony, is we actually established a soil profile. As you know, this is Bridgehampton loam,
Yes.
which is a unique soil profile for this area. It consists of topsoil, there's a certain layer of loam, and then I think there's a clay lens. We might have that from the original profile, but when you restore the sand ring, we want you to follow that,
okay.
to reestablish the bridgehead. I don't know if it can be transplanted, maybe from the new areas of excavation and brought over intact. That would be a question for your excavator. It might be able to do that, but we don't want a situation where you just throw some topsoil down over the sand and plant some seed and then that's done.
I was gonna
I
ask
really want you to.
You have sand there right now, where you were initially putting down the new sand ring, where you're looking to restore, is that currently sand?
It was just
It's
prepared.
partially built.
No, I think we removed some of the grass and a couple of inches.
Yeah, Yes.
But
We
you
didn't
didn't
bring-
put down any sand?
No,
No.
we didn't bring any
Nathan?
material.
I
That's
just
gonna
wanna
be restored.
understand this,
Yeah.
before we go
Yes,
any further
please,
with the
Christine.
details, I just wanna understand, which because the first easement says that we wanna modify anything, it's the town board. So are we,
We're not modifying it, because this easement, this conservation open space easement allows accessory uses,
Mhm.
and it has a paragraph about that. I don't know if I obtained one of these, but hold on a second. So this easement, no easements have to be modified to make this happen.
no conditions of the easement is what you're saying?
Pardon?
Yes.
No
No
conditions.
conditions of these
Right,
easements?
Right, correct, this complies with the easement.
Yes,
Okay.
and this
We
act-
have to review them, but yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and actually, by accident, we also copied the long pond buffer, which is just for the
So it's not that
residential
one at all,
houses.
right, that
But
has
that's
nothing
at
to do
the
with it.
end, and that's a
Okay.
different easement, I'm sorry, when I
No, that's okay,
made
the
the
first one
copies.
says
The
town
first
board
one is,
and then
the- is
also-
the conservation open easement, and it talks about, no buildings or additional structures.
Yeah, this
It's
is
on page four,
five.
4 and 5, yeah,
But-
4 and 5, yeah.
For lot 18 is on page 5. and
Page
sub-
5, yes.
paragraph D.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it says, no additional buildings or structures shall be constructed, erected, maintained, or moved into the open area of lot 18, and these are in the open area of lot 18, except buildings or structures that are accessory to the use of the open area of lot 18 as part of a horse farm operated on lot 18, or accessory to other agricultural uses of lot 18, including, for example, and not as a limitation, perimeter and paddock fencing, jumps, and horse run-in sheds, and such temporary buildings and structures as may be authorized pursuant to a special event permit issued by the town of Southampton. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that a sand ring is even a structure, but if it is considered a structure, it is undeniably accessory to the horse farm use. This is where.
Excuse me, also,
Yeah.
he talks about the topsoil.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yes.
and it says, no topsoil shall be removed from the open areas of lot 17 or lot 18, and the natural contours and subsurface conditions of the open areas of lot 17 and 18 shall remain generally undisturbed, except as required for development of the facilities depicted on road drainage and grading plans filed for the subdivision map. So, the language generally undisturbed, I think every farm has to disturb some soil, to do what they do, their farming
Potato
operations.
farms. Yeah,
Yes.
Potato farms are.
Any crop farms are gonna do this, and it's also appropriate for a horse farm to do this minimal. It's really, I don't think that the grading will be disturbed
At all.
at all. The
Yeah.
grading is intended to be kept the same. It's just that the surface, instead of being grass, will be engineered sand, which is what you
So
want.
let me just say, this is a work session.
Right.
We've never seen this before. Anthony might not have had time to review it.
I
And our attorney would, so, this might be a very premature work session, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
So you can explain, we're not, it's hard for us to give you feedback,
okay.
if we're not prepared to do that. So, you can state what you're stating.
Mhm. Well,
I made
we
one
understand
comment,
that.
Dennis made a comment, that none of this soil should be removed from the property,
Right.
and give us a calculation of how much you're removing,
Mhm.
and then it has to be put back in the same profile. But, council hasn't had time to review this in
No.
depth and advise us, so.
We're not asking
We're
for
not asking
any,
for
for that at all. We just wanted to introduce the revisions that we're making that we hope will allow
Okay,
the
so it's
project to
the
move forward.
sand rings, and then what else?
Okay, so
Okay.
the other changes are manure storage. There had been, on the prior site plan, an open manure storage area that was to the right of the main riding arena.
This is it. Hold on.
But
This is what was approved.
that's the prior approved site plan.
That's where, the only place they had that was approved for manure. But now we have slabs and containers throughout the site. We have,
Better system.
it's a better system and it's not as concentrated. Just like in the other horse farms, like if you remember, Campbell only had it in one place, but this is, that
Okay,
was,
so
yeah.
you've moved it.
Yes, we
Moved
moved it
manure.
to smaller areas
Item two.
too.
Okay.
Okay, and that's on the
Then,
plan.
And the number of horses. At the time this horse farm got its approval from this board in 2011, there were 89 horses on the property. And that's the number that the board approved. But as you may know, town code contains a formula for the maximum number of horses on a horse farm. And it's considerably more than 89. The surveyor, Mr. Barilski, calculated it as 130. I'm not sure he did this correctly, and we're gonna have to go back and check with him.
Because here on the first page of this.
But in any case,
How they calculated, how they
Right.
got to, they had 89, but it does say they could go up to, I think it was 118.
Right.
So anyhow, that's something
So
that
it's
we have
always
to look at.
been recognized that more
We
horses
could have
can
more.
be permitted. And so that is something we're gonna be asking for, is the maximum number of.
And what I'm giving you on the first page is a horse density calculation at the time that this was
This is
approved.
almost impossible for us. We have a little tidy desk and we've got enough paper to drown it.
I'm sorry,
I'm not
but-
sure this is very helpful, for me anyway.
If you increase the number of horses on the farm, are you gonna subsequently be looking for additional facilities to accommodate the additional horses?
No, it was originally a cow barn, and the main structure, which is really landmarked, has extra stalls. So they've always had more stalls than horses. I
But
don't have
that
dates in
doesn't
there.
really address George's question.
Yeah.
Do you have
The answer
enough-
is no, we're not
You
gonna
do?
ask to build more structure.
You intend to increase the number of horses
Yes,
We-
to what number?
To the maximum
I
allowed.
believe the maximum is 118. That's my calculation. Barilski says it's 130.
so we have
We
to,
have to
check that.
nail down.
Okay, so that's an issue,
that's
that's
an
an open
issue,
issue.
yes,
Number
yes.
of horses.
20, 25, 30 more horses, something like that.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. And the next item?
The next item is housing for the grooms, the agricultural labor. And
All
this,
those temporary trailers were removed? As I remember, some temporary structures here?
yes, I think
Now they're incorporated into the site.
we're asking for them to be approved as part of the site plan.
We
There
have 8.
are eight mobile homes.
In the southern portion.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's below the
South side.
South Riding Arena.
It says RV agricultural labor housing and RV storage, 8 RVs. That's something that this board has often approved with horse farms. And for the size of this farm and the number of horses that it accommodates, that's a reasonable number of RVs.
And it would have to go through health department
Could you,
approval.
I was gonna say, are you gonna,
Have to
RVs,
get-
is that gonna be self-contained septic or
Yes,
permanent,
They
self-contained
get
septic?
pumped out, they will get pumped out
Uh,
once a week.
Yes, we'll have to, get-
Within the units itself? Okay,
Yes.
but are you gonna do any electric service and no underground electric service?
Probably electric, yeah. Yes.
Electric
So
and
it can
public
be- it can
water.
be not public water, I think so.
No.
okay,
So
so
that would
that's
be
something
helpful
we
to
have
get
to
a
look-
schedule
yes.
of what utilities,
Yes.
we're gonna need almost that, like, as part of the site plan. I mean, I think what we're seeing here, and we all acknowledge that horse farms, agriculture is dynamic. It's gonna be changed periodically. We're just undertaking one at Riggio's Horse Farm in Edge of Woods where we actually had to change the boundaries of an easement. So, what I'm thinking is you're gonna be filing an application.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
yes,
So we're gonna have a whole list of,
yes,
and in the wake of that application, we're gonna be generating a report outlining all our issues and concerns, and pre-submission report, and then you're gonna make your formal application. So I think that's what the procedure that we're gonna be following.
I thought
Um,
with, because it's a special exception use, it's a construction permit, that we
Right.
had to do a special exception petition and an application, and then we have to have a public hearing. That
Right,
was my understanding. I believe the one on Lumber Lane was, maybe they wanted to get more feedback, because that was a totally blank site.
yes, yes.
So that's, we would like to follow the formal review of horse farms.
Well, I think what you're saying, the question is whether a pre-submission conference is required, is that?
It's not,
I think, yeah, it may not be, I think there's
It
exemptions
isn't.
for ag uses in the code, but
there is.
to Dennis's point, very detailed information about, because when I was out there, part of the issue was the RVs just sort of sitting out there. Personally, that's great housing, but whatever. But they were hooked up. They were hooked up to water, and they were hooked up to electric, and we need
That's-
to.
That's why we need to do this.
Yeah, well,
How
did a
about
little
septic
plan
on
of,
the RVs?
Was it that there's no septic system sitting out there,
They're
so.
getting pumped out.
Pumped, yeah,
Yeah,
I would
they
imagine, I guess.
Okay, that's something we
Yeah.
can look into.
So
We
give
had
us
a
a very
pre-submission conference,
detailed
No, we don't.
explanation of what
I'm
what you're doing.
There's no requirement for pre-submission on it. It's a special exception use. It's in the code 162.1.
but you have to have a public hearing.
You
Yeah,
have to
that
have
we
a
do
public
have to have.
hearing.
Right.
You have to have a public hearing.
So
And the
there'll be a
idea is
public
we're
hearing
supposed to expedite, agricultural uses.
And the staff report in
Yes.
62 days, you get
Yes,
a decision.
yeah, that's how it works. We don't need a.
With
This
the
is a lot
submission, like you did the first time, a detailed narrative about
Yes.
compliance with the
Yes,
various easements, so
Yeah.
I could get my interpretation then from
Exactly.
proper.
It's a little bit overwhelmed with a lot of, you can imagine.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, you're
It's a lot,
familiar, you're
yeah.
familiar with it.
And I think
but
the
this is a
plans
hard
need to be
question.
clarified, it's very confusing looking at these plans, and I'm an
Yes.
engineer, looking at these plans.
yes,
And, they're all over the place. I mean, we need one set of plans which clearly says this is what we're restoring, this is what we're putting up there. You shade it, you color code it, whatever you need to
Right.
do. And my first thought on this was that we were just looking to deal with the sand pits, and then we're hearing all these other things, including regularizing trailers for agricultural housing. That's quite a lot to have things.
Yes, but we need to get
Yeah,
approval
needs
for
to get
that, because it's
some
there.
movement on these times.
And it
So-
should
you
get,
could
you know,
remove it, and
I'm sorry?
you could remove it.
Well, then there wouldn't be any place for the workers.
But they are
This
on
is
a
temporary housing?
Right, as
Yes.
part of a site
Yes.
plan, you can build ag housing, on the site with, a up-to-date septic system, that's an option,
So is
If it's
this,
allowed in the easement.
if it's allowed.
is this seasonal use or is
Seasonal.
this year-round
Yeah.
use?
It's
Seasonal.
So for 3 months or 4 months, whatever, it'll be unoccupied. Or whatever the number
Or
is.
very low
It's
numbers.
not a
Yeah.
year-round.
Right.
How does, Karen, you would know, how does the building department handle like temporary, I can't remember us doing temporary.
I
We
don't-
don't have temporary.
We
What's that?
haven't,
We
Don't
don't
have
have
it.
temporary.
there's nothing in the code about RVs, and the other horse farms didn't have RVs.
So how would that be handled?
So this would be a new,
No, there is something else.
there is something about RVs, I'm sorry.
Temporary
I'm
housing
just
for an
saying the
active
last
god.
two horse farms I
I
handled,
think
they
it's
didn't
allows
have it.
something for
They
an
didn't
active
have
god.
Because the one on lumber is doing permanent
Yes.
housing.
And Campbell Collins
Right.
was added on, and also Brightside had
Yeah, that's right.
housing, so.
This is, I can't remember temporary housing ever.
No.
So I'm just
Well-
curious how building would handle it.
Yeah, you also have to deal with,
I did look, I saw there was a zoning board variance granted for, mobile homes at 600 Mecox Road LLC, and the variance was a setback variance, it wasn't
Oh.
a use variance.
Okay.
So
Totally
that,
different.
right, I know, but it
Yes.
establishes
Yes.
that the mobile homes, can be part of a farm. And there's also, that's the same thing for Haney Farm LLC.
It's probably reproductive if you could talk to building, and
Yes.
just get a
Yes, do all-
input from them, because we're gonna have to do the same thing. You can get a memo. I remember that there was a diamond farm on Mecox Road.
yes, I remember that.
Those are
15 years.
permanent though. I know you're calling them temporary because they're manufactured or mobile, but they're permanent. They're considered permanent structures. They're not considered temporary structures.
Okay.
They
We
used
don't
to be
have-
temporary.
They are on wheels on.
They're on wheels.
Well,
You're
You gotta
talking
go
about
to
those, at the
building.
other sites that I'm referring to?
Yes.
They're not RVs, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying they're not RVs.
Okay. All right. Well,
But
we
this-
can provide more information.
Good.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Okay, great. So this is what we needed. We really
Yeah.
appreciate this because, we want it safe, and there are horses there right now.
Right.
And they do have
More horses.
existing, it's gonna,
along the lines of what George said, it would be very helpful to color code what was there, what you're proposing.
Mika, did you all,
Anthony, you have
because
a
we need a
full
lot
set?
of public
Yeah.
and
They're gonna
attorneys
submit it to me.
involved in this,
Thank
were you
you.
able to share this
Get
with
them
the
logged in.
neighbors? That might be
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
idea.
that's the thing.
it's very safe.
Safely and environmentally friendly and all those.
Just a little friendly reminder to the board, as we move along, Candace will start coming up here at around 5:15 or so to start getting ready for the zoning board.
Okay.
Just let you know. Reminder.
Zoning board is today?
Zoning board tonight,
Yeah,
yeah.
at 6
Oh,
o'clock.
okay, all right,
Yeah, here it
great,
is.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
The next work
Thank you.
session is 495 County Road 39 Serve Pro. Prena, that's you?
So, yeah, I just need to go back down to my car to get some.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, although, hold my breath. Yeah. There we go. Somewhere too far of us.
Too much feedback going.
May we have your name for the record, please?
Dave Sen.
Dave?
Last name is Sanatore.
Ventura.
Jake
Jake?
Vander Waterville.
Vander Rock,
Vat, what? W-A-T-T.
T.T. Vander Rock.
John Beck, V-E-C-K.
That's simple. I like
Give us
that. Challenge. Okay, Prenda, you want to give us an overview here?
Yes, this is 495 County Road 39, or the Surf Pro site on the corner of McGee Street, North McGee Street. This is a current site plan special exception application. The applicant requested the work session. They want to discuss amending their application. I'll let Jake present it, but essentially going from erecting the new building to utilizing all the existing structures.
So we talked a little bit about this in the agenda, just to clarify that you made a presentation, we had work sessions, we worked on your site plan, but this is not something that you want to do right now, right? To build a brand new structure.
No.
So you want to take the existing building that's there and make modifications.
Correct.
My question is, how do we modify a new application that hasn't been, fully gone through? Or do they just give us a whole modified plan on this building to make it simple and cleaner?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're at a point where it was last before you in May for secret discussion. It was deemed incomplete. We were requesting more information regarding the chemical use in the storage, which we've gotten since and seems sufficient. The next step would have been to wait for Tom's completeness and then put it back on the agenda for hopefully a final discussion, make a determination and set the hearings. So we're at a point where I suppose we could pivot and get a new set of plans, re-refer it to Tom. I believe it's below 4,000 square feet, all the existing structures, so it would knock them to a type 2 secret classification. So if you, you could break at that point and then just sort of pivot and review it and then kind of continue.
I see it as that they have some considerations here. Again, a new application. And this is why it's a work session today, for us to discuss what it is that we want from them. You've done some plans on reforming what's there.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that's in that application, the existing application, has nothing to do now with this.
The other side of it is, if it's a type 2 action, it's under 4,000 square feet, you don't have a pre-submission.
Right.
Yeah.
So technically, you could go right to a formal submission.
Right.
And save some time there.
And,
So do we withdraw? Is the first one withdrawn and then we have this? I would think that's cleaner.
I would withdraw
It's
it.
easier to do.
I mean,
They've got the plans drawn. They have.
I mean, currently this application is not complete, so it's the first step of the site plan application is to deem it complete, and we're just not there yet. So instead of, we wouldn't have to have the pre-submission, so it's sort of. Like
But Prenda, we reviewed
I get it.
that application
Yeah.
with that building, I remember it clearly and distinctly. Talked about it, we reviewed it. It's not like it, we just said hello.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, since you're at a point where you haven't deemed it complete and do the secret yet, submit a new application.
A new application.
And we don't have to do secret. So if everything's complete, we can
Right.
get you to the same point that we're at now and get you to a hearing.
That's right.
Yeah. Do we have to do, we had a hearing on this, right?
No,
No.
not on
okay,
this.
Yeah.
So we have to do a hearing.
So that
It's a
makes
type 2
sense.
action, no coordination.
Yeah, that
We're
makes
at the
sense.
same point. So if they
Yes.
get everything in, we could still move it almost as if they were amending it in a
So
way.
do you understand what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Same
timeline.
timeline, forget the old application, withdraw it, they'd have to formally withdraw it, and let's look at this.
It'll go quicker with
Yeah.
this.
It's
because
totally
you just
new,
Good.
it's totally
keep it
new
instructive.
building,
Yeah,
Not-
no
not a new
structural
building,
change,
it's-
just
it's
Okay,
just.
so just show, this is what's there now, but you're gonna gussy it up, or what?
No, we want to take off the existing siding and just redo with wood siding, shingles. Maybe patch up the roof is their weak points. And then on the inside, they want to just divide into 4 or 5 offices. So there's no structural change
Good,
It's just taking the existing building, making it nice,
Good.
Doesn't
you know.
affect the cross-access or the parking calculations.
Nothing changes. You know.
Is this the
Be less
building?
parking required.
Yeah, that's
Less
part,
square
smaller
footage,
buildings.
less
Still
Yeah.
plans.
It's a much
I remember we
easier
talked about
cross-access.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the same.
Go a lot faster.
That works.
You want a parking plan, right? There's no drainage on the site, is
No.
I don't think so.
there? No, we
As far
want,
as dry wells?
yeah,
Yeah, there's a dry well.
okay, we would just refer to the town engineer, we'd want a parking plan, parking layout,
Right.
formalized
parking.
Lighting.
handicap spaces. I'm not quite sure what the site looks like now, but I don't think it's very
Lighting.
formal.
Do you have any?
No, it doesn't.
So this is what it'll, so you're gonna put a shingle, take off whatever's on there?
Yes, there's a, horizontal siding, take that off,
Put
and
shingles?
just shingles on correct. And then if the roof is in pretty good shape, but if it needs updating,
Patching, you'll do it?
do that.
Okay,
But there might be a window or two that they want to replace in kind, in place in kind.
yeah,
But other than that, it's pretty
great,
straightforward.
it'll save you a lot of money.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
a lot of money.
yes.
Yeah.
And if there's
And
nothing
time.
wrong with it, why, you know,
And
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
and
so
time.
it's-
Okay, so procedurally then, they'll formally withdraw the old application, submit this,
And then we'll do a completeness review.
we'll do a completeness
Or
and,
referrals,
public hearing?
schedule a hearing.
okay?
We'll do all of
Great.
that.
That's essentially what we're gonna be doing
Yeah.
next anyway.
Are they ready to submit now?
I don't believe so. I've seen only these plans. I
Okay.
think we would need, again, a formalized.
Yeah, we'll
Parking,
update
Okay.
it,
yeah.
update this and
A
get,
little
that
more
done.
site
get,
information in there.
gets the septic up, not the septic, the engineer plan survey updated.
Good. Okay, thanks very much.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming in. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Prina.
Prina. Teresa, are you on for 4, the lot line map of Charlton Halsey?
That's the
Oh, yes, I'm closing, yeah. Closing the work session, going into the afternoon session.
I threw away my
What'd you do?
copies in the agenda, so I wasn't sure.
Are we ready?
We're ready, Teresa.
Okay, so the parcel is located at 34 Stephen Halsey Path in Watermill. It was part of the Carlton Halsey subdivision, section 1. The original subdivision required that these two parcels share a common driveway. However, when the properties were built originally, this one received a building permit for its own driveway, and then this one was vacant, and then several years later, this parcel was given a separate building permit with its own driveway. And it's been almost 20 years. This was the 2001 aerial photograph, and they're just requesting that the planning board amend the covenant so that they don't have to share the driveway, since it's been existing forever.
It's a
Has
dead-end
council
street,
seen
and
the
I know the
covenant?
street.
Council, have you seen this covenant?
Is this one I looked at?
I don't
recall
know if
looking at
I
it.
I don't know if I did. I
I don't think so.
I'll double check and I'll send it back up.
Okay.
Is the
Oh,
public
but
hearing
It's just a
required?
draft covenant to amend to abolish that requirement.
Is a public hearing required?
I'm not sure.
So they're all different.
Do we need a
Some of
public
them
hearing?
require
We'll have to check the
supermajority.
easement language and
Right,
the
if-
covenant language.
If there is a public hearing required, I'll double check that. And if there is a public hearing required, I'll bring another resolution before the board
Okay,
and on the next meeting.
okay,
And
so
see
no action on this.
Check the language also, because some of them require supermajority. Some
Okay.
of them are just simple majority.
Okay.
So it's a bit
So
all over the
I'll
map.
I'll triple check it, and so I guess we'll just table this then for this evening, and then I'll bring it back before
not
the board at the next
We're
meeting.
not here
You're not
tonight.
this evening.
We have no
I meant
evening
for this
session.
afternoon.
Okay.
So, and then I'll bring it before the board for December.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Anthony, 64 Lewis Road.
is the CR80 or R80.
CR80.
You remember this is a 3-lot subdivision. This is a property between Lewis Road and Damascus. 2 lots in the rear along Damascus, and then the 1 lot on Lewis Road for the existing residents. The 2 lots will have access from Damascus individual driveways. We do have the 50-foot buffer that we required. No access off of Lewis Road in this one. Actually, map like that. And even though it's in the resolution that you'll see, the applicant's representative gave re-veg plans for the all 3 properties. So, in addition to the buffer, each property will comply with
Good.
APOD. And that's actually good because if you look, that's pretty spotty vegetation up there. So, all things considered.
All agricultural. Used to be all agricultural land.
Yeah, well, that's right. All right, so we could go through the resolution here. If you just go the findings on the first page, this received health department approval in July of this year. It says July 4th. That's not the right date. The application is in conformance with the adopted pre-app report from July. This is an interesting, we did the pre-app report. Very effective consultant. She managed to get the final application before the pre-app actually was adopted. So,
Is that efficiency?
Very efficient. We waived the requirement for a cluster in this plan. It's not adjacent to any open space, and we could accomplish through clearing restrictions in the APOD. So revegetation plans are proposed. Lots 2 and 3 are subject to a 50-foot wide naturally vegetated non-disturbance buffer that shall remain clear of all clearing, grading, ground disturbance and structures with the exception of driveways. Access to lots 2 and 3 from Lewis Road would be prohibited. This is a type 1 action. We did a coordinated review and did a negative declaration in July of this year. And this 3-lot subdivision is not subject to the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. Referral to the engineer. So the engineer came back with some comments. So the maps will need to be revised to address the concerns, and they've been incorporated into this resolution. The fire department, fire marshal's office said the area served by public water and fire hydrants, so no other recommendations. Trails Advisory Board, we've discussed this already. There's a conservation easement to the south here on these properties. Previously, you might recall the Trails Advisory Board thought that was an easement on this property. It is not. They also acknowledged in their previous referral that there's no trails in the area, but they had asked, even though it's not our easement, to put a connection between Lewis Road and Damascus Road. We had this discussion, and since it's not our easement, we can't require it, then we just didn't see there was any reason to do it here, just to make that connection. So, the Conservation Board provided comments. They're recommending the clearing restrictions and clearing calculations need to be shown. They're recommending reclaiming natural vegetation. And so part of the revegetation plan will include plantings and a natural revegetation like we always do. They're recommending the removal of any debris and deteriorated buildings that might be dotted on this property. And they're recommending forested buffers along Lewis Road, which we actually had a discussion about and decided that back here was where we wanted to keep the buffers. And that one back here wasn't necessary. East Quad Fire Commissioners had no comments or recommendations. The Highway Department stated there are no recommendations at this time. So be it resolved, approval of the final map, subject to the following conditions. Final map revisions, the revisions required by the town engineer. Remove all proposed structures from the map. Show the postal delivery numbers to be obtained from the assessor's office. Both existing and proposed clearing limits, along with the square footage calculations, need to be noted on the final map. Then there's map notations, one regarding compliance with zoning, one regarding covenants and restrictions, and then on the top of page 5, the notation for signature. Final planning board approval of the site disturbance revegetation plans for each lot. Submission of declarations and covenants and restrictions. No further subdivision of any lots. No lot line modification without planning board approval. I'm recommending 100-foot separation distance from driveways on the two lots in the back, just to keep them as wide as possible. And this seems to make sense. Lots 1, 2, and 3 are subject to the APOD restrictions of 330 and 67, as well as approved revegetation plans to bring them into compliance with the same, and that any changes to those plans or additional clearing is subject to your review. No new utility poles for overhead utilities. All new utilities shall be installed underground. 3-inch drainage required for all impervious surfaces for all the lots. Retention of stormwater runoff is required, and then coverage under speedies may be required. That's always the engineering covenant we put in. Then submission of a mortgage consent if applicable, title certification, town attorney approval of all legal documents, submission of the Mylars and paper prints for signature, and then to be filed within 62 days.
Anthony,
Yes, sir.
jumping back 1D, see, it's typically aquifer protection lots. They're fully wooded, but this is partially clear, partially wooded. So we should somehow, I think, link 1D with your covenants 3D. Somehow stating in the covenants with each lot, putting that data from 1D into the actual covenant. So someone, because it'll be flagged in a title report, that way they know, oh, we're allowed, we have X amount that's cleared, grandfathered, and we are only allowed a certain amount,
So I'll put that language from, I'll put that in the covenant then.
Right, I think 3E on the covenant, 3D in the covenant.
Yep, I'll put that in there. That makes sense.
And Anthony, what about the fact that it's central pine barrens compatible growth? Any requirement there?
No, because we're meeting the clearing restrictions
Okay.
with the revegetation.
Ours are stricter.
Yeah. It looks like there's some substantial growth on there.
Yeah, there is. There's some nice trees there.
It used to be all farm.
But it used to be, it definitely
It was
was
all agricultural. Wait, go back to the aerial.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And you can see even in 2001, it's still,
Mhm.
I don't know what that was, but.
I liked Teresa's presentation before. That was perfect. You went from old to middle to, you could just see the difference on the driveways.
Oh, yeah, right.
Very visually
We find
perfect.
ourselves going down rabbit holes when we do that, by the way, here.
No, but it's very helpful.
No, it
to
is.
see the history
We
of
have
it.
good aerials here.
1B, there's a small typo, form from.
Form from.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I'll move it. Second.
Okay, any other questions? Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Teresa's back up with 2297 Montauk. Is that the one?
I just realized it's.
You distributed the draft, did
I
send it to us, yeah.
We got it. It's coming down. Across.
All right, so 2297. This has been in abeyance for quite some time. We had a pre-submission conference hearing on it in January of 2024, and the applicant had requested an adjournment of the adoption of the report. I do believe that we had discussed it. I can't quite recall if we had the full discussion. But this was the parcel that had an older home, and it was demolished pursuant to a building permit, and it is in the new Bullhead Main Street Historic District. The neighbors had some concerns regarding drainage. They came to the public hearing for it. It is in the Historic District, so Landmarks provided some comments which were incorporated into the report. So today is to adopt the report and to move along with this application so that the applicant has some written guidance on how to proceed with the application. Of concern specifically was the architectural style of the building, the size, and the number of variances that might be required for the project. And then again, some of the concerns from the neighbors with respect to drainage and potential stormwater runoff occurring on their property. So like the only thing that was of main concern on the staff report was whether or not you wanted to assume lead agency, which I'm assuming yes. But then the other things were outlined in the report. Oh, I have two copies. Concerns with respect to the building and historic compatibility. They are required to get a certificate of appropriateness for the historic district. Landscaping, just this general standards with respect to construction in the
But
HO
don't
zoning
they want to
district.
put the 2 apartments where they're supposed to have 3?
It was
in a separate building, which is not code, so that's a fairly significant question mark.
correct, and that was one of the things that they would either need to redesign or seek variances for.
This is the Farrell application?
That's correct. So now they have a new attorney, and today is just to adopt this report. We had the public hearing in January. There's a 30-day comment period, and today is to adopt the report, which I did email to you and to the agent.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, no, I read it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of questions.
There's a lot of
issues.
questions, but this is a guiding document for the applicant, so that they know how to proceed with addressing those questions prior to formal site plan application.
Good.
So I did notice there is a typo in the reso. I had made a change to the date of the report after their last, after one of their postponements. I hadn't really made any other changes, but the resolution says February, so it actually has to be the June 27th, 2024 date.
June 27?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So I'll make that change in the resolution.
Any questions? You're the applicant, David?
42297 David Gilmore, Greenberg Road, 2317 Montauk Highway, 2 lots down. We have our guidance and we'll move it forward and go forward going through the process.
Okay, thank you. No other discussion? I'll
Motion
to.
Well, so I'm gonna actually, just to confirm, so I apologize. The report says June 27th, but I'm gonna actually amend it so that you do want to assume lead agency, so it'll be today's date. So the resolution should be today's date. I just was working that through my head.
So which whereas is that?
At the very end, whereas the planning board adopts the report such and such a date, it should be November 21st. And I'll redate this after I change the
Okay, but we can act on it.
Correct.
So motion by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Claire, Watermill Square Associates.
Resolution. We talked about October 10th, and you were concerned because the fire marshal brought it up that there be no outdoor heaters, and we know where the outdoor heaters with these outdoor seating are located. So that's the site plan.
Well, this is that sort of alleyway with
Yeah.
the tables.
Kisaki,
Yeah.
yep, in the Watermill Square
Kisaki,
site.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. This way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's him
that used to be
saying
Miracle.
he's not gonna have
Yes,
outdoor
that's right.
heaters, so I put a condition in that there be no outdoor heaters.
No.
No.
Okay.
So if they do, so the condition is, there shall be no outdoor heaters, but if there is, come back to
Come
that.
back, okay,
So that's the difference.
okay.
So I'm recommending approval of the outdoor seating for 53 seats outside. There'll be a limitation, there's some conditions on this. You want me to just read up over the
Yep.
conditions? Okay. Conditions are, total seating for the restaurant is limited to 107 seats. The interior total of the restaurant will be reduced by 53 seats. An outdoor seating plan is in use. submitted outdoor dining plan shall show tables and chairs directly in front of the restaurant and down the middle of the walkway. There should be no mediation. The east side of the walkway should remain free and clear of tables and chairs to provide an unobstructed walkway. Umbrellas or sunshades, as observed during inspection, shall not be obstruct the passage through the west or east walkway. Walkway should not be cordoned off to prevent access to the walkway for pedestrians, as observed during inspections. When the restaurant is open and utilizing the outdoor seating plan, no portable outdoor gas-fired heating appliances without review and approval by the planning board and the town fire marshal. Plans shall be labeled the site plan and affidavit its existing plans.
I only asked Claire that, number 2, where you said total seating for the restaurant is limited to 107. The interior total for the restaurant should be reduced by 53 seats to 54.
Okay.
When outdoor seating plan is in use.
That makes sense.
Just gives them.
Yep, perfect. I'll add that for your consideration.
Any further questions on this? No? Moved by George, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome.
And you go right into 157 West Montauk Highway.
I do. I have latest and greatest plans. Do we have the plans for the turning radius? I did see them online, but I didn't.
Maps supposed to send them directly to you.
I just don't have any printouts of it. I couldn't even open it. It was very difficult because it was so full of stuff.
I don't have the printouts.
You don't have the printouts either. So just so you know, they've been working back and forth about the fire marshal for the turning radius being very important, that the fire trucks can get in and then turn around. That's a requirement per the town, building codes.
It's a diner.
This is the diner
In
property
Hampton Bays.
in Hampton Bays. And so that was really the big issue that they've been working on. It's obviously it was just last week that they had that information. Do you feel comfortable leaving this as a condition? It wasn't a requirement. They didn't deny the application because of this.
Yeah.
But we can leave it as something that it could work out before signature. And you could approve it if you want to see it before you sign it. Does that make sense to the board?
So
Or-
so now it's action deadline.
It's action deadline. Everything else has been reviewed. This is just
this
the, and I
last
have,
week.
let me give you the,
Yeah.
That's the decision on top and the staff report behind it. Site plan. So the question is that they knew that you'd have to take a left-hand turn because they're coming from the east. For the most part, they'd have to take a left-hand turn in.
So it's
They were
tight.
really concerned about how tight that was. So I did see it preliminarily. It's just that the fire marshal's a busy person and can't respond in a day or two. So it is that they can turn in and then they can back out. There's 2 places for them to back out if they need to not to turn around. No, it wouldn't go that way. It would be
So they
internal.
come in and they have to turn around somewhere down
Oh,
here.
down here.
And then go,
That is it.
yeah,
Yes.
it's tight.
That is one way to do it. There's another way to do it is when you turn in, that you could take that corner and then back up and then go. You can go forward. So
Yeah. All right, so they're going to provide us with a turning radius diagram.
and it's something definitely the fire marshal's going to review it because
Okay.
they got to make sure the code is being met.
Mhm.
But do you want to look at it also as a condition?
And they would have to adjust something if the turning radius is not adequate.
Yeah, it would be something like mountable curbs. They might be just tightening up some of the landscape islands and things like that. They have 2 spaces that they also could eliminate, which would obviously help, in terms of providing, making it tighter.
I think we better see it before we approve
that's gonna delay the application, because some of those curbs could even just be painted curbs, as even concrete curbs, right?
Right.
Some of those islands could be painted islands rather than that, so it
100%.
allows the movement of traffic.
And that's just such a big safety issue that it's sort of hard to.
David?
Yeah, was it the applicant's here, so.
Yeah, the applicant, David Gilmore. We have provided a plan that was provided last week, before your meeting last week, to the fire marshal's office, and we tried contacting them to do it, but our engineer has assured us that the radius is there. So if you do it conditionally, we're absolutely gonna meet that radius, and we'll get the fire marshal's approval for it.
We're not moving any buildings, we're not doing any of that. It's just
No.
internal stuff.
Right, right, and there is a plan there that demonstrates compliance with it, we just need the fire marshal.
I did see it, it just, I don't have that
As long as
sign
he
off.
signs off on it.
So the condition would just be compliance
Why
with
hold
fire
up the
marshal,
process?
whatever the fire marshal says.
Providing a turning radius with fire, to the
Approved by
sas,
the fire marshal, the satisfaction of the fire marshal.
that's how I write it, yes. But that's up to the planning board.
Let him know that.
So we'll do it as a condition
Mhm.
and we can have a review of it as well.
Yes, if you want to, yes, absolutely.
Did we act on this last week?
No, this is.
No, Claire just went
we
over the draft.
reviewed, the draft
draft.
staff report, so this
Oh,
would be
okay.
the conditions now.
Claire always works, we get the draft report the week before, 2 weeks, and then we see the.
Oh.
Usually
Great.
2 weeks
She
before,
gives
but
us-
this was last
She
week.
gives
Great.
us time. Anything changed, Claire, on it?
So no.
You're gonna add that condition,
That's
right?
the only condition change?
That would be the only thing, and how I wrote it on the second page
Yeah,
is detail of the fire truck turning radius shall be included on site plans to the satisfaction of the fire marshal. So if you want me to add in the planning board.
and the planning board.
That's fine.
So essentially, this allows them to move forward with the demolition to get that going, and
Yeah.
then they wouldn't be getting to the parking lot yet.
Dennis is gonna demolish it.
I'm not gonna prove
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
I think we should have a demolition party.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
So, we do have to talk about the license. Did you get any information about the license or easement or how you want that wording and for the
Oh, the little building, the little greeting.
little sign in the
No
front?
building, there's no building. Right, there's just
It's a little curve.
It should be shown on your plan.
Is that an offer, how would you handle it? Offer?
We did
I
talk
spoke
about
to my client, do you know the area that?
I do know
Right.
that you and I have spoken about it, yeah.
Right, but, so he has agreed to a license, that will, allow the Hampton-based beautification to keep that
To be
area up.
where it comes on your property.
But, with the proviso that there's no structure.
Right,
Yeah.
so you submit a meets and bounds description of that area.
Yes, we'll do that.
Do you have that in here, Claire?
So I said note the area in the front of the well sign as an easement or license. So this would be a license.
Where are you, Claire?
This would be B, 1B. So there's going to be two references in this
Oh, okay.
decision. One is the note on the plan
Note
regarding the
area in
license.
front of the welcome sign as a license.
And then we want to probably put the intent in there to allow for maintenance of vegetation in front of the sign, right?
And there's something in there about in case the turnabout, the roundabout gets instituted, right?
No, it's far away from the roundabout.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty far away.
But the roundabout needs to go on your, I know that it was designed in the event that they needed that.
This particular area is far
No, I know that
northeast.
area, but I'm just saying in general. Did,
In general, if they come in, we are designed in a way that will accommodate it.
We received, I think, that analysis from the traffic engineer about that, right?
I think it was a
Just
site
wanna make
engineer that did.
Do we have to put that in as a condition?
We don't have any,
That future-
besides the discussion and obviously the traffic information. When we did SECRA, there's been no comments from anybody, DPW, and I don't have any comments from the state on this.
Yeah.
But the buildings are conforming.
And the applicant is certainly cooperative if a traffic circle goes in. Would
You want
help
me to
them.
put something under the staff report related to it? Does
I
that make
guess so. I
sense?
mean, Christina's
I think you should
questioning
mention
some
that it's
mention
out
it.
there because we know that it has somewhat come back. I'm
As a
not saying
connection.
take it like as a,
I think
Yes.
I don't know if the town board has passed a resolution asking for the county and the state to explore that, but I know they're talking about passing a resolution to
Good.
formalize the request, so.
So we should have it.
Yeah, what's the
eventually.
mechanism for us to ensure that any property owner, if it's this one or a future, would be compliant with that?
They're gonna just take it.
Yeah, state will
Okay,
take
the state
it.
They're
will
just gonna take
Okay.
the property.
They
There's no,
they
there's
don't
no
like to do
asking.
that, but they have the authority to do that.
It's not up
Right,
to
well,
us.
but
So Claire, you'll put it in
I
as
am.
a statement in the
Yeah,
staff report?
on the staff report, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
and we
Good.
talked about
Christine?
solar.
Yeah.
It's required.
Okay.
It's gonna be on
be
the site
indicated.
plan as a note and also on the building plans. I have
Good.
those both.
Excellent, thanks.
Great.
Solar? Yeah.
Yes.
Declare that license to maintain the landscaping and the sign itself.
Well, the sign's not on the property.
Oh, the sign. is not on the
Only,
sign.
only this little garden, which has a
Okay.
little retaining wall, which
It's like
I
a
would
flower
describe.
bed.
Yeah, it's a flower bed.
Okay.
It's like, maybe a 2x8.
Oh, so the sign itself is not.
It's
No,
in
sign
Hampton
is
Bays.
not on the property. It's just,
Sound
Sign is
property.
on the town's property,
Yeah,
Okay.
mhm.
where it belongs.
maybe they wanna sell it to you, David.
I think it's open space.
Yes.
So solar, do we have a condition here?
Yeah, 1C says indicate solar on the proposed buildings. 1D is to note the proposed cross-access potential to the south. They show it to the west and east, but obviously it's owned by the states as a drainage, but it could also someday
Be cross-access.
be an
The link.
opportunity for cross-access, so
Okay.
put that on there. So the rest of this is kind of cleanup notes. Plan shall note the date of preparation, any revision dates. The plan shall be stamped by a licensed professional. The lighting, we did talk about this. The lighting from the interior building shall not shine out of the proposed front facade. Add a note and details to mitigate. Indicate the solar on the proposed buildings. Change the landscape plan. We talked about the boxwoods north of the parking spaces. And increase the minimal caliber of trees from 2.5 inches to 3.5 is the minimum. And then the lighting, 2700, the reduction of lighting poles, the modification of the note to reference town of Southampton. Add a note that lighting in the interior building should not shine on the proposed front facade. Speedies and SWIP requirements, these are general conditions. The area of disturbance shall be staked out prior to commencement of work. Comply with fire marshal requirements, HVAC system screened, compliance with town code and dark sky requirements, I want to say for lighting. No dusted on lighting fixtures, all outdoor lighting shall project downward. The all LED lighting shall be 2700 K, no public address systems, arrange pre-construction meeting with the town engineer, and the reference to site inspections with the town engineer, and DPW DOT approval. And then submission as a condition of approval, I'm gonna add the license agreement, okay? So that'll be a new number. The submission of lighting fixtures, the cross-access, town attorney approval, the SWIP acknowledgement letter, and the affidavit and 6 sets of plans.
So is the license agreement between Southampton Town or Hampton Bays?
Town of Southampton.
That's a Hamlet. Okay, any further discussion?
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. You have the next one.
I do have the next one, Eastport's Mobile Home Park. So I went to the site, I do pictures, I'll pass those out to you. I tried to do little descriptions of where on the site they were.
We had lots of
We still have the big plans to work
community
with. Sorry about that.
input.
Welcome. I do encourage people to go. It's definitely eye-opening. There's about 17 people who are on site still with their owners on the property, and so. And this is the updated report, which I did email to you yesterday, so. Yep. And then I did email you the second CO. Sorry, I had copied just one CO. The original. So there is 2 COs issued in March on the property.
Oh, this was the issue of the number of units, right?
Right, there were 2 COs. There's 2 properties in question. One has 83 units on it, the main parcel of 251, I think. 251 has the 83 units, and 253, which is off of Woods Street, has 10 other additional units on the property. Do you want me to just to kind of review what I've updated? Yes. I updated everything, so I was going to go through. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kate.
I was just wondering, so we were talking about where is the jurisdiction between the town building department and HUD, and then who coordinates with Suffolk County to sort of determine how to approach this in a coordinated fashion. Were you able to get information?
I don't have any additional information on this. This is new. This is new to planning. We have yet to, besides the East Quogue Mobile Home Park, where had the relocation going on, I have not done anything to do with mobile home parks. They are like sets. They're just the building departments, like the one in, I'm just thinking about the one in Riverside. If somebody wants to put a new unit in there and there's a designated lot, they would just go to the building departments and demonstrate that they're putting a new unit in there. So this is definitely a new process, whether HUD or the county's involved or the state is involved.
Do we know if HUD's involved, Kate, or not?
I put it as a question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
here.
So I think we need to have that clarity of
The
what's
information.
happening procedurally by each entity and each
Right.
action, so that we can have the full picture on how to proceed.
Well, how is HUD involved?
Do you know,
That's
David?
Yeah, David Gilmartin for the applicant. Yeah, HUD's involved because they oversee the structures themselves, or
The physical
the physical.
structure.
The building department has jurisdiction, arguably over the pad, but the strapping that holds the homes down, that's where the building department has given us the building permits for. So that's the extent of the building department's oversight.
So any new manufactured home has to meet HUD standards.
Correct, HUD approved.
So I would think that would be some kind of a condition.
Right, so then, and
You
then
know?
HUD, then typically, if you're gonna get a CO on an individual residence, the condition from the building department would be that Suffolk County would approve the
Sign off.
septic and, wastewater management. So that's where I'm wondering procedurally, where is the jurisdictional line? Because the building department at the town does not have that jurisdiction. HUD does, and we need to be coordinated.
Why
with
wouldn't
them.
the
So I
building
just wanna-
department have that? Why wouldn't the building department? Let's
Because
say
they
when we do
are-
modular home, they build it in Pennsylvania, they wheel it in, they set it on a foundation, and the building department has to inspect everything. Inspect the foundation, they inspect the strapping, they inspect the, you've got to do a air test with the, they administered all of that. Why would these be different? I don't think HUD's equipped to inspect these things, right?
I guess
I
what
can
I
answer
wanna.
that for you, Mr. Finley.
Sure.
Again, Brian DeSessa, 2331 Montauk Highway. Modular homes are not regulated by HUD. there are different standards inside of that. So to your point, the building department has jurisdiction over modular homes because their scope is greater in terms of inspecting the foundation, the connections, the strapping, the connection of electric. HUD regulates everything on a mobile home. So a mobile home manufacturer that is licensed to do business and create mobile homes is certified through HUD. Every time they create a new model of mobile home, they submit that to HUD, electrical, the whole building part of it. HUD then certifies that set of plans as acceptable, and the building department has to accept that. So the building department here, and in reviewing the code, has the ability to inspect strappings, because now the code requires strapping due to wind speed. So they will issue a permit now on all new mobile home parks for purposes of pouring the 6-inch insulated slab, the bolts and strapping that'll connect to the HUD regulated unit.
So HUD certifies these when they roll out of the factory, right?
Correct, on the plan, that's
So
it.
there's no further,
That
they
is
don't have to
not.
go in and
Nope.
say, recertify it?
No.
Okay.
The only time if you apply to the building department for modification or you go to change anything on that structure, then it's a deviation from the HUD approved set of plans, and then that's a different scenario.
And meanwhile, the building departments, any steps, stairs that go out, any decks that go off?
Not stairs or ramps, that's part of HUD, and those are part of the engineered plans that come with the units.
What about a deck that goes off the back?
If you were to build a deck, then you would apply for a permit through the building department for the deck. The deck is not connected to the unit. There'll be a 2-inch space gap because you cannot connect anything to the unit, or it would void the HUD. So there's rules and regulations in place to do that. So if you were to put a deck off of a mobile home unit, you'd get a building permit from the building department for purposes of the footings of that and the construction of that deck.
It's a separate structure.
Correct.
So you could still move the.
That's
unit
correct.
Because the individual who lives there owns that unit, right? So
Not necessarily. They're separate. They're just HUD regulated, so it has nothing to do with ownership.
So my question has to do with the mechanism that we're using to evaluate site plan on the basis of 2 certificates of occupancy that are, pre-existing, right? And I think there's an opportunity here to look at these sites and really make sure that, we determine, is it actually pre-existing?
You can't
or
make
does it need to go through, a more rigorous review to make sure
That's
that we're
been done by the building department. We're bound by the building department's determination. That's not up for debate. That's what they have. And if that could be challenged, they'll challenge it outside of here, but that's not our jurisdiction to do
The
that.
number of units?
The number,
So
yeah.
what about the fact that we don't have a definitive answer from the health department on septic?
That's a separate issue that's for them to take up with the health department, and they're gonna need those approvals to continue, but that's not our jurisdiction.
So that was a lingering question for me, and I appreciate your clarity on it.
I believe they're doing individual septic with 2 units feeding into each septic, right?
So we've agreed and in conversations with both the town and the health department, we're putting in new IA systems for the entire park.
Right.
Yes, we're putting in IA systems, replacing all the existing, pre-existing systems. So the application that's currently going back and forth with the health department and our engineering team is to put IA systems in for the entire park, replace everything.
Is that individual IAs or?
They're not, well, the flow is
2 to
different
1?
on a mobile home unit,
Yeah.
according to the Suffolk County Department, right? So they're shared IA systems based on square footage of the mobile home. So it could be, and it varies on both location where they fit and also distance. So it could be 3 or 4 units hooked up to an IA system. But the entire park, the proposal currently that we're working on is to put IA systems in the entire park.
So you will get, you as the developer will get the permits and inspection directly from the county?
That's correct, yes.
Is that needed for the town to then issue, does the town give you a CO for the unit after the inspection?
They don't give a C of O, they give a sign off on the slab permit, because
Just
the
the
C of O, it's regulated by HUD, the units themselves. But we've been in talks with the building department, and they know that our current plan and application process is to
So
put
the
IA
town,
systems.
the town's permit, approval doesn't depend on the septic system?
No, because right now, correct, that is correct. They're two separate.
Does HUD have anything to say about the configuration of the system?
No.
Septic? Nothing.
It's regulated by the Suffolk County.
Yeah, but
department.
I mean the actual physical structure inside the unit that they're making?
No, because what HUD does is these HUD units, they have an outlet. So all the units come with a pre-done outlet that connects to the septic system.
Okay, that's
So
it.
the Suffolk County Department of Health connects,
To that.
regulates the connection from outside of the mobile home into the septic system.
But a condition of our approval would include approval of the Suffolk County Health Department of what you're
No,
submitting.
because the application here is not for the units or the site plan.
But it's
That's a
based on
building
the
department requirement.
Right, but it
So
was
the-
based on the occupancy,
Not
right, the
following.
COs, the 93 units. If for some reason they decided they weren't grandfathered you.
Oh, then that would
grandfathering
change
you
with the
in.
town, but if Suffolk County, yeah.
That's
But
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying,
they
we're not
stand-
gonna do anything affirmatively about it, but a condition of your getting approval for what you're doing is that you have the right to do as many as you're saying that you do,
Yeah.
and we're assuming
You're bound by
that
whatever
you're
the health
right.
department
Correct,
says.
so that's what
town
I'm.
can't, the town says 93, it's my
Right.
obligation with the health department. The town has no more involvement
Right.
with the health department. The health department's original map, I think you have, was from, in 59, they approved 97 units. And we've had an operator's permit continuously since 81 for 97 units, including one that was just renewed in September through next September for 97. So they've recognized 97 units in their application, but now we're going through the process of upgrading
Right.
to IA systems. And the differentiation between the 97 and the 93 is because, as Claire will tell you when she's on site in the staff report, the previous family that owned has installed over a period of 50 years units that are not on recognized sites. So there's units that exist today where people live in them and own them that are not on recognized sites that are hooked up to septic systems. So that there's the distinction in your number from 97, because 97 or more, 103 were the most at one point, and 97, but in the reviewing of all the aerials, utility bills, active meters is what we gave to, affidavits is what we gave to the building department in establishing that number. So as you drive by the park now, there's one to the west. There's a unit that's very close to the road on the west, which is not on a recognized lot. So and we have a demolition permit for that. So that'll be demolished and that'll become grass area.
Is there somebody living in it?
Not on that one.
This one.
So there's one. There's also units to the south. You can see on that aerial there's like 3 or 4 units on the south property line adjacent what was like a sand mining operation at some point over there. There's owners living in those units that own 2 of those units that are not on recognized lots. So those will have to be removed at some point, and we have an understanding with the town that when those, if those people move into a new unit or move somewhere, those will be demolished and no units will go back. The 93 is based on the 93 recognized lots where units will be established, which is consistent with the health department maps.
So again, there are not 93 units there now. You have
There are not. I have
CO
I have
93.
health department approval for that, and I have town approval for the 93 pads. There are not 93 units currently on site.
And there aren't 93 pads, was my understanding from the last meeting.
Well, there's 93 pads. There's not 93 slabs. There's a distinction there. So the pads are where the units go.
Slab is what I was.
There are not, because that's a new requirement, not under when the parks were established. So now it requires slabs, but there are 93 pads for 93 mobile homes.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us what you experienced when you're on site?
Yeah.
It's a variety of newer units. So unlike this aerial that you see, there's no more newer manufactured homes here. They're sporadically on the property. Some of them have new pads on them that have been poured, and the units are there, especially in the fronts. As you go down into the site, there's more of the dilapidated units. Some are empty and they're marked that they are not fit for living, so there's like a marker on them. But I asked when I was on the site, David Martin was with me. I asked the supervisor of the sites, how many units are occupied by owners, and there's 17. And so it's a mixture of well-maintained, trailers and some that are more dilapidated. And so.
So you said there are a couple of new ones up at that area?
Yeah, mostly the new ones are towards the fronts of the property, and you can see them from the road if you go by.
And is that something that the developer has put in without approved site plan?
Well, I think at the initial thing, there was some building permits being issued for these slabs. But then when it came to a realization that the health department was questioning whether some of this was approved or had been abandoned and they would need to review the sites, that's when the stop work order was issued, and no more of those are being issued by the building department, as I understand right now.
Right. But they will have to be brought into compliance with an AI system.
That is what they're saying.
They're being brought into compliance with IA systems. So we have I don't have it with me, but I think we have like 41 or 42 building permits for pads to put new units on. So all the pads at the front of the park are coincide with building permits that were issued to put the slab in and locate the units on there. So
Are the locations the same as the original development?
yes. So there was a map in 59. It's consistent with that map, with the map that I've showed you today. There's units there that are straddling lots. There's units there that were not put on lots. So what is being reestablished with building permits and where units are being located is consistent with the park as it was established prior to 57, and then the 59 health department map, which is consistent with how the pads are laid out on GIS throughout everything. So units are shifting as to where they currently are located, but that's because units were located not on pads or like diagonal on pads, or I don't know how they operated.
Are pads lot lines? If I'm gonna, is there like a pad
Pads are not
in
lot
this-
lines because there's no meets and bounds descriptions, but it's a map that was because it's only.
But it's not a structure. It's not like concrete.
The
slab-
pad is concrete.
The pad is.
The slab is concrete.
Right.
The pad is bigger. So the pad encompasses a parking area and a yard area, and the slab is located inside of that pad area.
What's it made out of?
You can think of it as a lot.
That's what I'm
I
asking.
mean, there's no lot description, so there's no meets
Right,
and
but
bounds.
I'm just saying it acts
A
like.
pad is a lot.
And a slab is the
is-
concrete where
Correct.
the structure actually goes. Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Yep.
So what we're looking at is the actual locations of how it will look.
That's correct.
Okay, Claire, you want to go over your report?
Sure. So, is there any intention of going over the 93 units?
No,
Oh.
there's a limitation.
That's item number one. So, there was two COs issued March 28th, 2024 by the building division for the total of the 93 units, which we discussed. They provided the information about HUD. That's helpful. Oh, what happens? Can you help me?
Sure.
And then, is there any New York State jurisdiction over this site? As far as you know? Okay. So we talked about the type 1 designation last meeting.
Coming up now.
Huh?
No, I think it's gonna boot up. I saw that.
Yeah, take a minute. So they did, I did provide the site inspection. Said mixture of new sites, new units and new slabs and old units. And then the applicant provided that approximately 17 units are owner occupied currently. The street signs, when I went to the site, there were 2 street signs at the beginning of the property that identified the in and out. So the entrance is on the west side and the exit is on the east side. The west side is known as Park Avenue. The east side is known as either First Place or First Road Place. I can't decide. It's one of the two. And otherwise, there's only one other internal sign. So I asked them to immediately put up a sign that identifies the roads because people are living there.
Are there roads?
Safety.
Are there any roads here?
Well, it's a road. It actually, our GIS describes it,
Yes.
puts a label on them, and then it would be important for public safety to have those
And
roads.
direction, yeah.
Yeah,
where you're
exactly.
going.
So with the health departments, this is what we discussed last time. I did provide to you the email from the engineer from the health department at that time. That was an email from June. And the applicant obviously, as I said, they're in discussions about putting the IA systems to be shared by 3 or 4 units. And that would just play out with the health department. Any other additional comments on that, or?
Do they have to identify on the plan where these IA systems are going, if they're shared? Brian, are you going to indicate on the plan
We're
where
working
the,
through that issue with the health
Can't put it on yet.
Once
What's
the health
the
department
location?
approves it, then I'll put it on it so you know where they are, but
Okay.
they're moving because some of the requirements too are, the setbacks are different, the units are further apart now, right, so now they're 15 feet apart versus before they had no regulation. They had regulations, just tons of clarity on like fuel tanks, oil tanks, and otherwise, so all the new units that we're bringing on site are 100% electric. So now there'll be no more oil tanks, there's no more propane tanks, so every unit now is 100% electric, heating, cooling, utilities, everything. So part of that PSEG is upgrading the services to the park and in conjunction with meters. If you went there, you'll see meter banks. PSEG's new plan that we've been working with on them for several months is each unit will have its own meter on an H-frame next to the unit versus the meter banks. And they're upgrading the amperage and everything else because the mobile homes previously drew less amperage.
But there's some existing units that have the existing fuel tanks and stuff like that.
There are some of the existing units are on propane still.
Oh, propane, is it the only one? I mean, is it the old type?
I believe so.
Okay.
The
will
older
you be
one.
changing those over or not?
On ones that, so of the 17 people that live there, there's not 17 individual owners. There's about 8 owners of those units. The rest are units that the previous owner and or us or are of unknown ownership. But there's 17 people living there. So some of the things we're going through right now is working with the Department of Motor Vehicles and otherwise to find out who actually owns some of the units that some of the people are in there.
Department of Motor Vehicles, that's
Yeah,
the
because they're
mechanism.
that's who you have to register them. They all have VIN numbers because they're
That's
their
another
vehicles.
chain.
So
There's another chain.
yeah.
Department.
So you have to go through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Some of them are
Vehicles,
from the 60s. They don't have VIN numbers. Or they can't find VIN numbers on the units. So there's some of that still going on in conjunction with the state.
So there is state jurisdiction by DMV.
By the DMV. So.
Okay. So, site is served by public water, 6, and then 7 is the fire hydrants, which we talked about last meeting.
There's no fire suppression here at all?
There isn't, but they're proposing fire hydrants.
We're putting in 5 private hydrants. We've worked with the fire department on that, and that's part of the Suffolk County water application that's going in. We're going to establish new force mains that go through there that'll support hydrants.
Oh, so right now it's probably like a smaller main?
It is there's a 12-inch main in the street, and I want to say it's maybe a 4-inch supply main through an RPZ that currently serves the park.
Okay, so it'd be, obviously it would be increased to meet.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
So there's
Is
a lot
that,
of
do you think that'll be a
infrastructure.
12-inch on the site or 10
No.
or something?
The engineers, I don't know the exact calculations from the engineer. I just know
It's gonna be increased.
it'll be increased because it's a 4-inch supply right now.
Right. Okay. Put some.
And there's
language.
ample pressure in the street. They've already done those tests.
Okay, great. So number 8, I had spoken about this at the last meeting. There was a couple of the lots that are owned by the applicants, but were not party to the original mobile home park, and that's this triangular piece here, this rear piece, and then what I discovered when I was there is that it also encompasses these, I guess, maybe 2 pieces.
It's 2.
Yeah, I'll identify
And-
both of them.
Right, and there's a road to the north of that.
There's a road access here?
Yes.
Okay.
How many acres are those, Claire? That's excluded from the development, correct?
Correct.
It's not party to the application where they have any rights related to the mobile home park. They have been cleared and disturbed. There's a mobile home park
a new one on this parcel. It's not here though. This might be the Casone trailer though, on the south side. But there is a very extensive mound. I would say it's almost 20 feet tall.
Wow.
On the east property line here. I brought it up to the people when we did the inspection. It definitely needs to be taken care of, like, immediately.
Dirt or construction debris?
I didn't go onto that property, but I could see it. It's in one of your pictures, and I called it out. They said it's topsoil, and then it's going to be spread over the site. Even if it is,
The mountain.
can we just, I don't know, move it, stabilize it, something? It's right next to all the residences to the east here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's.
You could do that. That wasn't much fun.
Yeah, talk to the town engineer, something safe and.
A lot of times they use net, you ever see that netting? They put that netting so that it doesn't blow around. You know, that's like.
Sounds similar to the mountains that are existing in Bridgehampton. On
Is
the
it new soil
side.
or?
What it looks like to me is a mix, like they took all the vegetation and soil and mixed it all together and made a pretty nice big long.
So recent.
Yeah, part of it also
Very
is that there was apparently a landscaper behind there who was kept continuously dumping stuff there. So when the mound was put up, and this is anecdotal from the person running the site, but then the landscaper put up a fence and there's no more dumping.
So that has to be taken care of.
I think so. It's pretty significant, and I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to start to take care of it. So talk to the town engineer.
Several
and engineers.
mountains existed on the site in, where the storage facility is going to be in Bridgehampton for a couple of years.
Yeah.
40, 50-foot mountains of dirt.
Okay. And then the master plan identified this as existing mobile home park from 1970 and also the 1999 comprehensive plan update. So this property was called out for that. It's high density residential.
Nothing affordable here, right?
Well, that was a point, and the applicant talked about it, that they were working with to provide some affordable component here. I meant to put it in here, so we can put it in discuss
We're in
that.
discussions with that now, to institute a percentage of this as affordable housing. I don't know what that looks like, but
Percentage of it, or?
nothing's committed to yet or anything. We're in discussions with the town on that now.
How do you see that working?
I would say it's a matter of how many units versus there's going to be a percentage of it that we're going to work with the town and designate as affordable. I don't know what that is, what that looks like right now, because those are the discussions that are currently ongoing that I'm having with the town.
Wouldn't that help you with your health department too, though, if there was some affordable component?
It might. I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to give the board the wrong things. I'm saying we're talking to Kara, we're talking to Curtis, we're talking to the town. Nothing has been solidified on either side yet for that.
Okay. Well, I'll put it as a.
But it's going to be a part. I can tell you, it's going to be a part of this. I just don't know to what extent.
The percentage.
Yeah.
So we'll just include that for
Yeah.
one of the
Yep.
points.
So the applicant's
Affordable
working
housing.
about the affordable, and we'll tie that up with the site plan stage. So 10 was the buffers, the 20-foot buffers. The board had talked about maybe establishing the buffer in the front. There is a planting plan. It needs some work. But there's going to be, I think it's 20 feet in front. So that's the most before the unit starts on the property to establish some landscaping. But around the property to the east and to the south was also a 20-foot buffer. Some of the units to the south are encroaching in those buffers, and some of the units on the east are also encroaching in the buffers. So, and those are people living there. So there's definitely some process with that. But I would encourage that to be landscaped. And then the landscape plan does show a significant Leland cypress buffer on the west side along what is known as the recreation area here. So reestablishing that and actually having a true recreation area, someplace that amenity, you know.
Pocket park.
Yeah, pocket park for the residents would be helpful, I think. So that was my next item there. Also the dumpster, that, right now that actually the residential, that recreation area does have the dumpster location, and I think there should be maybe more than one dumpster location, maybe 2 or 3, on the site, so that should be located, so that's 12.
So we had a different plan for that. We're gonna have trash pickup once we complete the park. So
Oh, okay.
that's our internal plan on that. So that's why it's not shown. That dumpster's been there for, I don't know, as long as it's been there for. But the plan once we're finished is there'll be trash pickup for
Okay.
each unit.
How is that done? Is it just because it's owned by one entity? It
Mhm.
could be part of.
Correct.
Okay.
It's part of the monthly fee or built into the rental fee that it'll be included in that.
So they'll have the individual trash.
Yeah,
The
every
tip cards.
rollout cans that you see all over. Each
Yeah,
unit will have
the
its own
tip card
rollout can.
thing, yeah.
Yep.
What about mail or mailboxes?
There's mailboxes on the street.
Yeah, like a.
There's a bank of mailboxes
Bank.
on the
Bank.
western street side that we've talked to the post office extensively that has to stay there. So that's where mail gets delivered.
I mean, there are 90 mailboxes?
There are, no, some people get them on their house. There are mailboxes out. There are some out front. But the post office told us that everything is going on the street. Yeah. I mean, I can't.
Is there like a,
There's a bank of
right,
mailboxes.
so it's like a big box.
They're there now. There's like 30 or 40 of them.
We're imagining
There now.
the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
No, I was, it's like a condo.
Right.
Yeah.
Co-op development.
Correct.
Where you have a.
Yep. I mean, for whoever gets mail, I mean, Amazon delivers right to your address and unit, so. But the mail is out front.
Unless they tie
And there's a
it to
pickup
your
and drop off box there too for mail every day. You can go in and out going mail.
Okay. The lighting, it should be 2700, and poles indicated as 10 and 14 foot tall, but there's no details provided. The electrical service you talked about, so I'll put some additional information on that. Obviously, it's going to need a town engineer. There's been extensive clearing on the property, so they'll have to give approval. The sustainability, I just mentioned maybe solar on the recreational lot, possible. So, and you found that there was no chargers required because they'll have individual electrical. And then the landscaping, this is related to the buffers. And then there's no plantings proposed in the 20-foot buffers. And then any existing decks and sheds should be noted on the site plan, referrals, and public hearing be held.
Claire, any kind of a notation on drainage? Has an engineer weighed in on that? I mean,
There's a full plan that's gone to the town engineer for road grading, road drainage, runoff, everything.
runoff from these units.
Correct. And
That'll
for,
be
and for
fine.
the entire park. That's with Mr. Howden.
Do we want to add that, please?
15.
Number 15?
Oh, it is 15.
Yeah.
Got it. Sorry.
That's good.
And these are private roads, so included in your fee would be
Snow
you
plowing.
take care of snow plowing, maintenance of the roads.
Take care of everything. Everything's private. Correct. One-way roads, and everything's private.
And these are what, like 2-bedroom?
2 or 3 bedroom.
2 or 3 bedroom, so.
There's 2 units that are 4-bedroom, but everything else is 2 or 3 bedroom, depending on what was there.
And parking is per unit.
Per unit, yeah. That's up. The plan you have, we showed 2 or 3 spaces based on the number of number of bedrooms in the unit. That'll be formalized because the park rules state, and we're going to enforce that no parking on the street because they're one-way streets, so it's a health and safety issue. But parking has never been formalized on the units, so we're formalizing parking on the units. That's where everyone will have to park to keep the streets clear.
Do you have an estimate of how many people you think will be living in this community?
I don't. I
Say
don't know.
2 for times 93 is 185.
200.
Yeah.
200 people plus?
Right.
Do you intend to do any kind of, I don't think I saw it on here, but sort of banked parking if the folks have a guest, you know, say there's 2 bedrooms and there's 2 adults living
We're
there.
we're working on that to see where we can put some additional parking. But 2 or 3 spaces is more than they ever have been there, but
Sure,
it's
still not
yeah.
ideal.
So Brian, you own those two parcels, those two long parcels where the mountain is and,
Yes.
right? And then you own that triangular piece
Yeah, and the parcel to the south.
at the back.
Yes.
Isn't that part of the buffer, Claire, or?
No, it's a separate lot.
It's a
It's a
separate lot, separate land.
Oh, so
lot.
those trailers that are there are in the buffer area?
Yes.
Do you plan on having these to be annually rented, or is this going to be a transient?
No,
What's the business plan?
Minimum of 1 year rental. So we have other rental communities, and it's a minimum of 1 year rental, if not longer. We don't want turnover. We want people remaining at the park or the property.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry, I just heard that
No,
as I was
yeah, just-
formulating a thought, but just one final thought that I have. You know, when you do submit your final application here, it could be useful to kind of show for us and for the population living there, what is the phasing plan for construction as close as possible. Just, there's a lot of logistics of
This is going to
moving
be done in
things
less
and,
than 10 months once we have approval. Because the
You're not
units,
phasing.
we're not phasing it. Everything at once. Well, because we're going to put in new septic, so that's going to dig up everything. We're going to bring in new water. So we're going to put we're going to put all the pads in at once. We're going to put in all the water, sewer, everything at once, and then repave all the roads at the same time, because it wouldn't make sense to put in new roads, dig it up for the water, put in new roads, dig it up for the drainage. So it's not going to be a phasing plan. It's going to be all
And
at
you're
once.
upgrading electric too.
The meters. That's a swap out of meters, so
Okay, so
it's not, and they're above ground utility lines that are existing, that are remaining.
Are you making any accommodation for the people who are existing, who
Yes.
are living there?
Yes. We have an on-site person that Claire met that is there every day to address any issue that any of the 17 families have on site.
I mean, are they being negatively impacted now by this?
I mean, there are complaints that we address. Some of the complaints we can address. So, for instance, we're responsible for everything up to the unit. So I'm responsible to bring electric to your unit. I'm responsible to bring water to your unit. If your unit has, if you have stuff in your unit that's popping breakers or otherwise, or if there's a water pressure issue in your unit, I have to bring it to your unit. I can't do anything inside of your unit. So we receive complaints on that. We try to work with the owners on that. But if we don't own the units, I can't do any work inside of the unit. I can make sure that there's water to the unit. I can make sure there's sewer to the unit. I can make sure there's power to the unit. I can't do anything if you're having issues inside of the unit. If it's a unit that we don't own.
Right.
You know, when there's issues with roads, we fix that. Sometimes when there's a lot of rain, there's some potholes. We can't fill the potholes till the rain ends, so that happens. We work to keep the dust down. We're consolidating all of our efforts. You know, we pulled all the permits for the front of the park and in separate areas, so all the machinery, everyone that's working is working in an area. We're not blocking traffic or anything like that. So as issues come up, we have someone that's on site every day but Sunday, and everybody at the park has...
Living in one of those, living in a unit?
No, not living in a unit. The plan is once we have approvals on one of the new units, we will have 2 24-hour on-site people that live in the park.
I would think water pressure is an issue with a 4-inch water pipe going in.
I mean, it's been like that for 50 years. But I can only go so fast. I mean, I got to get from town, you know.
Yeah.
But
Claire, we're going from 17 occupied units right now to potentially 93 occupied units within a year of, you know, when it gets approved. I think we should have something in here under the preliminary planning and review and issues is the traffic impact.
Good.
2-3 bedrooms, you're probably talking, you know, 150 more cars or somewhere in that area. You know, going in and out of this place.
I mean, the units are not before the board, though. Before the board is.
And I'm not talking. I'm talking about the number of vehicles. I'm not talking about the number of units. If it's 93 units, I'm talking about the traffic associated with
It's a site plan
93
issue.
units.
We're currently, well, let's talk about what the site plan is really looking at, what this application is for, and it's in the beginning of the
your pre-submission reports, including lighting, landscaping, roadways, and drainage. That's really what your consideration is. I mean, some of this is a little far afield. I know that the property owner is willing to do a lot of things to make this better, but I think we need to reel in exactly what this board is looking at and where your jurisdiction is.
Well, we're looking at roadways.
Roadways within the property, not roadways outside the
So
property.
you're saying we don't have the, we shouldn't be looking at traffic impacts? Is that what you're saying?
No, this is an
you
existing
can only do that.
entitled property. It's not new.
You can't look at off-site mitigation or asking them to do something about that unless you're engaged in a secret analysis, and that holds a whole host of other things, because obviously they don't feel that they're going to need secret. So, but right now, if you just have the site plan in front of you, and these are all issues that they're aware of, but if you have the site plan in front of you, the traffic that you are right now looking at is internal traffic flow.
You're not creating new road, you're upgrading the existing road network inside. You're not making any new accesses to Old Country.
So we're going from 17 occupied units to 93 occupied units.
No, we're going from 93 entitled units to 93 entitled units.
Yeah, but essentially, I mean,
17 of them are occupied.
Well, that's just
76 of them are
right.
empty.
But for the history of the park, more than 17 have been occupied. And if I don't want to sound obnoxious, but we're getting a hell of a hard time from the town, and we'd have this cleaned up and doing much better. And that's why it's down to 17, because we can't connect any. We're getting these general stop work orders that, frankly, are nonsense.
Well,
so you can't say it's 17.
And I'm not trying to
because
give
we're
you a hard,
artificially being reduced right now.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm trying to make sure that
the hard
entry
time
and
isn't-
exits from your driveways onto our road are safe.
Okay,
And if there
that's-
might be
and that's
mitigating, right there at the driveway entrance, crossing traffic, things like that, I think that's something that has to be
part's
looked at.
fair, but you start to talk about a traffic study, and you keep saying 17 units, and that's not the history that's been here, right? That this has been from the 60s. It's been 93. Actually, it's been 97, but it's 93 now.
Well,
To be
no
continued
matter
at the time of
no matter how
application.
you slice it, however you slice this loaf of whatever we're slicing, it's a major impact on the land. This is a planning board.
But it's an
and
existing
every,
impact.
well,
Can I just compromise and say that we're gonna put information about roadways
Yes.
and widths and those types of things, and there's gonna be a lot more review of this project.
Entrance.
This is to identify potential issues.
This
So
is cleaning up squalor. This
Oh,
is something
well,
I'd see in
Dennis.
western Oklahoma.
yeah,
I mean,
but
I'm looking at
but
this.
Dennis, they went in and clear cut the entire site,
Yeah, it's
This is
squalor.
doing stuff without permission, which is classic.
This stuff.
Classic.
This looks like western Oklahoma.
That's all I
There's no
have to
clear
say.
I
restriction here.
Since I started this part of the conversation, I just want to say, I want to make sure that people coming in and going out and traveling along, transitioning from your roadways to the town roadways are in as safe condition as possible.
Agreed. So do we.
And the mountain will be dealt with?
Mountain.
Yes, the mountain's also off-site. Right? It's not
Good
the site
faith.
that's
Yes.
before you.
Good
We will-
faith.
I will address it.
So we're adopting
For your
the
con-
pre-submission, the conference report.
for your consideration, I will get you a fresh copy.
Get us a fresh copy.
Yes, but we will adopt it today. Yes.
Any other discussion, any other points that we didn't, that we
I would
didn't
prefer,
leave?
yes. Let's
That we
adopt it.
didn't leave
And I will
out?
get you the copy. I'll update it by Monday.
Any other points that we didn't make that we should?
I think it's all inclusive.
Dennis, George, Tom, no? Is there
Are
a
we
stop
acting
work
today?
order on this?
Yes.
There is a stop work order.
Yes.
Sarah, I couldn't hear. Are we
Yes.
are we acting
Yes.
on this today?
The
I would
pre-
prefer
It's a
we
pre-submission
adopt it. Yep,
report,
it's
yeah.
Pre-submission
Okay,
report.
pre-submission. I'll move it.
Is the site accessible? I'd like to probably stop in tomorrow when I have some time and just drive around. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's open, people.
And Rob Lepre is the on-site manager, so check in with him. Yep.
Good, George, take some pictures. Thank you, Claire, for taking these
Yeah.
pictures.
You're welcome.
That
Pictures
gives a good sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So, a motion to adopt the pre-submission report with all of the modifications and corrections from portable housing, park area, all of that. Claire, if you could email that to us?
Yep, you'll have it Monday.
It's always a little leery to vote on something that we don't have a full, but we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
Thank you.
Okay.
A little
Okay, that's
easier,
good.
Shinnecock Hills
Okay.
Golf Club.
Shinnecock Hills Golf Club?
We're releasing their maintenance bond for their landscaping. It's $860 they're getting back.
$860.
I'll do. I'll
You don't make sure they
Check out.
did their landscaping
Motion
right.
by George, second by
Plans.
Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions,
Not
6
for you
in
to
favor.
$50.
It's like a
One-
pendulum
one
swinger.
absent. Okay,
Yep.
Do you want to go in order? I'm sorry. Just something.
Good Thanksgiving.
where are we? Where are we?
I was thinking since I have just my stuff and my walk-on, and since we're pressed for time, maybe just finish everyone else's and I'll do my stuff at the end.
Okay, so we'll move on to you, Claire,
14.
which is 14 Milk Pail.
I have the decision. The applicant's not here, but this is pretty straightforward.
It's a staff.
It's a wetlands permit and for a use in an existing building. They have a little addition going on too. So I'm gonna give you the staff report. And then this is the decision too, so I just did it separately. The deadline for this is not until
I couldn't tell you felt that way. You're such a poker player.
Staff report, divination.
These all the same thing. Okay.
That's the,
What's this?
oh,
It's
that's
the
one
same thing.
set. It's one set.
It's
Is it?
one.
This is the
yeah, it's
same?
one set.
Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah. You probably just have the engineer plans. You have the site plan.
I'm sorry. I split
He
it.
passed it on to me.
The various.
He did it.
My fault.
And I
I'll
have,
give you mine.
Right? I think that was my.
I have erosion control.
Sorry about that.
I'll give you that. Okay, Claire, go ahead.
I'm kind of just breeze through this. It's a existing building. You can see it here. There are wetlands that come up here. The conservation department has commented on them. Had no special requirements related to it because it is really just the changing the use inside, and they are putting a little deck and porch area for the for egg labor housing on the property. So it is a special exception for the egg labor housing. It is a wetlands permit. So I do have conditions related to that. And the ZBA had to grant a variance because of the proximity to the west property line. So they amended that variance that they had originally granted in 1985.
What are there, just two residences next to them?
So here, you mean to the
Yeah.
south? Yes. But they were both notified with the ZBA and with the site plan, because we had the hearing on the 24th of October on this one, so there was no public comments.
When they had to go to the ZBA for the wetlands, do they actually have to encroach further, or if they just had to reaffirm that they were in this?
The ZBA was for the setback of the building to the west property line. It has to be 150 feet setback. And off the top of my head, I actually don't know what the setback is, but I have the ZBA decision attached, so hold on a second. It's 81 feet, where 150 feet would be required.
So it was a setback variance.
Yes. Yes.
So they needed relief for additional setback.
They needed to relief because it was a ag labor housing use in the building, which it already was. Half of the building was already ag labor. They wanted to use the remainder of the building for additional ag labor uses, so they had to go back to the ZBA to allow for the whole building to be used for ag labor housing.
But the building has stayed in the same place, so they didn't need
100%.
to have additional relief. It's just that
We need to
were changing the
reaffirm it.
inside.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's where I was trying to
It's
go.
kind of an exercise. It was kind of an exercise because they had already granted it.
It's been there for a long time, and
Now they're getting their approvals for the entire building to be used for the ag labor housing. Putting, as I said, there's a deck going on the south side, and they're upgrading the sanitary system. It's all going to be IA on the property, which is great.
a good thing.
Yeah, and so the conservation board did identify that also. So, if you want me just to read some of the
Yes.
referrals, and then we can just touch base quickly on the special exception. So the town engineer just set the fee and arranged for a pre-construction meeting. The fire marshal said the area is served by public water. And then additional review will be the building departments, no issues from the county or the fire department, and the conservation board said. Conservation board supports the renovation of the existing one-story building in order to provide additional square footage for ag labor housing, as the proposed improvements would enhance the protection of the adjacent town regulated wetlands by replacing the existing outdated sanitary system with a nitrogen-reducing IA. Stormwater runoff impacts will be averted by the planned use of temporary silt barriers as well as installation of subsurface dry wells to serve both the workforce housing and the proposed driveway. Paved surfaces would be minimized. Plant protection of existing natural vegetation is likewise endorsed as disturbance of the wildlife habitat would be avoided. So they're approved, and then the Ag Advisory Committee also approved the project. So that was that. I attached the ZBA decision for you. And so the report outlines the special exception criteria, which is the general ones, and also on page 4 is the specific ones. And this is where the setback is talked about. But A has to do with the sanitary code, and obviously the IA system is being used here, so it's being upgraded. B is dwellings shall be located in the site of the farm, and everybody's familiar with this property. It's an active farm. It's actually not only this property, but adjacent properties. I think the whole total is 69 acres that they're farming. And C is the placement of the dwelling. Group quarters shall have access to a paved street, and that is existing. D is that the setback shall be, the sideline is 200 feet actually, and the above standard is not met. It's 81 feet. I'll note that the ZBA granted the relief for the setback. So, based on that, I didn't want to go through all those standards for you. There's no other additional conditions. There's 6 formalized parking spaces being utilized. If you want to just go through the conditions of approval, if you're comfortable, I can do that.
And where's the porch? At the rear?
Yeah, you know where you see it? I wanted them to just revise the main site plan, because if you look at the site plan, did you open your site plan?
I have just erosion control.
Oh, what's that say? Okay, so this main piece doesn't show it, but this detail does. You can see has the this is the trellis, and then this is a porch that screens in on that side.
So is that the western side?
It's going to be the south side.
South side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to have them put this on the main portion of the site plan, so it's just easy to plug
Good.
and to show the wetland setbacks, so everybody knows what it is. So that's a condition of approval.
So all the standards are pretty clearly met, right?
Yeah, so if you look at the resolution itself, you'd be approving a wetlands permit And the first 10 are the general conditions that we have with every application, but the specific ones here are one, the construction shall be strictly conformed to the final revised plan established by the planning board. 2, a project limiting fence shall be installed, and 3, the housing and screened-in porch shall be equipped with leaders and gutters to accommodate 3-inch rainfall. And that's all been approved by the town engineer. The second resolved would be to approve the special exception use for the ag labor housing. And then the third resolved is the site plan approval. And so the changes of the site plan would be 1A, indicate the aisle width for the handicap space to be 8 foot wide. It's currently shown as 5 foot. That's the old standard. It's now 8 feet for handicap space. Show the wetland setbacks to all existing proposed structures. Show the trellis and porch on the site plan with wetland setbacks. And then the building plans need the licensed professional to be stamped. And then the general conditions are the staking of the disturbance, comply with the fire marshal, screening of HVAC, no dusted on lighting fixtures. Any lighting shall be 2700K, no public address system, construction meeting, inspection with the town engineer, submission of lighting fixtures, engineer fee, and the affidavit, and 6 sets of keys.
Any increase in parking?
So 6 parking spaces are shown. They had an informal. It was a parking lot there, and they're just going to formalize it and bring it up against the building. So
But they don't need any more than the 6?
No more than the 6. Okay. It's all in an area that's already been disturbed, so it's just a formalization.
Any questions? Motion? Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent.
Okay.
Okay, Claire, you are then area T?
Yes, area T. So last meeting, we had discussed this, and I was just going to write up the secret on this, and as I was writing it up, I had a lot of comments, so
Yeah.
go through it.
Okay.
What we discussed at the last meeting was that the traffic, there was a traffic report done by R&M Engineering. I think you were satisfied with that. So I've written a resolution to recommend a negative declaration.
Oh, this is secret?
This would be secret, yes. Well, as I was going through this and I looked at the original pre-submission report, let me pull this up. It was important to the planning board that they retain some natural vegetation on the property in the front, so I've included that language under impact on lands. So that is on page 1. That's the 5th bullets. So groundwater impact, obviously it's going to be an IA system. It'll be public water. It is sole source, and then a SWIP permit would have to be submitted to the town engineer. Impacts on plants and animals has to do with the long-eared bat and the clearing window. Impacts on aesthetic. I think we had discussed this at the August meeting. That's the building, the appearance of the building. I do have the building plans. You did see them last meeting. Did you have any issues, or did you remember that? Or did you want to take a peek?
Take a peek. It's the 3 buildings, 10, 12, and 7, right?
Yes, the 3 buildings, exactly. That's total 29,000 square feet. This is the appearance of the front building. So, I think it needs a tiny bit of work.
Oh, God. Did the ARB see this?
Not yet. That is what you recommended at the pre-submission stage, and I don't think they had gone to them yet. So,
They didn't understand, maybe.
maybe. So So,
I think there's some issues with that.
yeah.
I mean, there should be some articulation in the facade. These are just flat, right?
I think it
2
is
stories,
flat.
3 stories?
Here, I have plans for you. This is a 2-story building, yeah, the front building.
Thank you.
Let me see.
I'll try
Yeah,
not to
the
mess
flat
up.
front building.
One sheet. That's fine.
Each building looks like this?
That's the front building. That's the one that fronts on Montauk Highway.
I think the architectural review board should take a crack at it.
Montauk Highway. Here.
Well, particularly that front, the building that faces on Montauk Highway, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have the architectural review board take a look at it, and
Are
the
you,
vernacular
are you
is.
good with that being a condition? Okay, perfect, then we'll leave it at that.
I'm curious, in a couple of places here you've said to maintain 3-inch caliper trees.
Yep.
And, how do we anticipate that would be accomplished?
Cause they're
Because it's not
clearing
really-
the rest of the
I mean,
site, yeah.
The site plan itself really prevents that requirement, so, how can we have a negative declaration when we have conflicting recommendations in the
Right.
site plan we see in front of us?
Mm-hmm.
We want street trees, at least that's what they can
Every-
fit, right?
In the EAF, you're checking yes to many of the questions here, so I'd favor looking at this fully with a positive declaration. The traffic alone that we talked about and the traffic analysis that was done, the consultant's really not familiar with this area and the pressure that that particular corridor is under. Tom, maybe you could comment on that piece
Well,
of things, but we've discussed many times that the roadways and the infrastructure have been deemed insufficient, and here we're, adding a significant amount more development.
Yeah, as I look at the impact on transportation, summary here, I would take out potentially, and I would take out the word small. I think the study did show that it will have an impact on traffic. There's no question about it.
Was that the 10% increase on that
That
one?
was that 10%.
9.8 or something, 10%.
9.7%. That's, so, I don't know if, I'm not sure
It's
about
not
the
small.
neg deck versus a, pause deck or not. I haven't quite, I think it would need to be a number of issues. But I do think there's certainly gonna be an impact on traffic. There's no question about it.
Yep.
The community character area too, we had asked in the early stages, I believe, of this application to have similar buffering along the roadway, just similar to the lot that's right to the west here, that has, some vegetation on the roadway to keep the community character in place, as that is developed, and the site plan that's before us does not show that. So, I just think when I'm looking at this, there's some inconsistencies in knowing the area very well. would like to slow down the process to really fully examine the impact of this project.
If I just
That's my
could, David Gilmore for the applicant. You're making a secret determination. We've got to go to the zoning board and get relief for this plan and then come back for site plans. So a lot of the issues that you bring up rightfully are things that we can and will deal with in site plan. When you brought up the lot to the west, I spoke to my client he owns that lot as well, so he's very willing to do that on that lot. But again, I think if we can get through secret and then deal with the site plan issues like going to the ARB and the buffer in front, we can overcome those.
Where's that put us, Claire?
A more,
I
Do we
am
have to
counting
make it-
2 people who have concerns with a
I do
negative
too.
declaration, so I kind of need to hear from other people, but
I have
this,
a concern.
these documents, there's 2 things we could do. The applicant could be maybe hearing what you're having concerns with and maybe address them, or I can table this and write something
Conditional.
that is reflective of what is Kate and
Mhm.
Tom has just said.
I do too, I have concern, you could add me to that.
I need to kind of count how everybody else is. How about Gloria?
I'm sorry?
Your
You have
concerns?
concerns about this?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, so what would you suggest now, to just,
Well, I'm offering the applicant
are we
to
on,
maybe
are
speak
we
to
on
this.
an action deadline for this?
We are. But I have no problem, because I have some,
You have
based
issues.
upon your just comments.
Yeah.
This document can be modified, but I
Modified.
want to, you should probably hear from the applicant.
David, can we get an extension on this? Because clearly we
Sure,
have some
just-
issues.
Sure, if you can just outline exactly what the issues are. Traffic's traffic, there's no.
Traffic, architecture,
Would you want somebody to look at the traffic, the analysis that was done?
I mean,
Or are you
you know,
concluding?
I tend to believe what their report said, you know, I think it's a pretty legitimate report. We could have somebody else look at it, but,
I mean, the traffic report said there was gonna be an impact.
Right.
So we can't ignore that.
Right.
10% increase is substantial.
Right, that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at sizing down the development and, keeping more of the
Development is
natural
sized down.
buffers.
Well, I
Right,
remember that the argument was that you could subdivide it into 3 lots and you could get, what, 15,000 on each.
lot.
Although that would be, I think you probably need variances for that, for setbacks,
Right. We can fit it.
because it's a pretty narrow lot. But scale,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard when we know that the roadways are at capacity to not suggest lowering the development density to allow the applicant to still use their property efficiently and economically, and at the same time try to avert the traffic catastrophe that is sort of here every time there's an accident and all the roads shut down. So, I mean, that seems to me like the way I can
I
think
want some
about.
direction though, when am I coming back?
was there cross-access? Did we determine?
There's proposed cross-access, for the applicants. It's a good question, whether the site to the west actually has cross-access right now. It might.
Is that the one that's owned by your client, David?
Yes.
The one to the west?
Yeah. Right.
Maybe there is in the rear or the middle.
The middle looks like maybe. The reason why I'm suggesting positive declaration is just to have a more thorough, coordinated review. We have a lot of development going on. We have significant traffic and infrastructure pressures, and I think we need to be careful and look at it carefully.
Right.
So
I mean, that's a huge.
that's our
You could
job,
land with a
right?
condition
And you're
on a
doing your
deck,
job, and I
Claire.
respect
No.
No? Oh, because
Type-
it's
it's type
type
one.
1, yeah. Type 1.
So traffic and architecture are the two
Traffic,
issues.
architecture,
Architecture,
and
community
density. I mean, I'm looking at the parking here and, looking at interior circulation.
There is a cross-access, for future cross-access with the west.
And of course, we obviously don't know what the owner of that piece of property is going to propose for that in the future.
To the west.
To the west.
So it has a connection. We could connect to the
Right.
west right now.
Right.
We could have connection happen.
Where the lot, Tom, that says Hampton Bays on
That's
So this is the subject lot.
right.
And this
Right.
this has the
Oh, I'm sorry. So
cross-access.
right,
It's
I'm
through the
sorry.
middle.
Yeah.
My mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is cross access there.
There
And
is.
is that the car wash?
It is.
Yeah.
So we'd have to make sure that the cross-access works with this plan, Claire. I'm not quite sure it does.
Yeah, I mean.
Because
the
you're going
car-
right through a
The car
parking.
wash, you kind of go in and then you do this and there's a lineup of cars waiting.
Yeah, I don't,
So-
I'm sorry, I don't have the
So that cross access could be blocked by.
Here,
quite a
Claire.
bit.
And I don't know quite how we
Did you
get
want
to it, but
Yeah.
for example, I,
hard to
I,
see.
I don't believe there's a center turn lane in that section of Montauk Highway.
No.
No.
How we could maybe get to ideas of what could be done to possibly make things, better if it were to go forward.
I mean, because those two back buildings are warehouses, so each one of those bays is gonna be a truck, probably.
Right.
So you're talking about a lot of big vehicles and a lot of them.
And that, again, we all know from everyday experience that, it's getting harder and harder and harder to make, left turns out of, especially east of here. But, even this area, making left turns in and out is getting tougher every day.
Yeah.
And more dangerous.
Right. I mean, traditionally, left-hand turns are, among the most dangerous maneuvers, you can make. And so I'm just thinking out loud, if we were to find a way to say, okay, well, this is what it's going to be. Is there a way that somehow that traffic volume could be lightened up through some changes? I don't know. Maybe not. Is there a way to make those lefts in and lefts out, a little safer with the center turn lane? I mean, there might be an opportunity, as you're saying, Kate, to, explore this further. Talk to Suffolk County, that's County Road 80. Talk to Suffolk County about ideas they might have. Or have another, or your traffic guys come back and say, hey, here's some ideas. Not trying to kill the idea, trying to figure out a way that we could mitigate it a little bit.
Exactly.
Make it
Do
better.
it right.
Right.
I mean, the only positive is making a left out of there, which I do occasionally, is there's really good sight lines.
Right, yes,
That's a-
yes. And a number of years ago, the town lowered the speed limit out there. I
The
don't know
official
whether-
speed.
The official speed limit. Yes.
So Claire, the property to the west is the car wash.
Yes.
So how do we do a cross-access in that?
So there is, you can see that they have an ability right here, and then the buildings are on the right-hand side in this project, so the parking lots can
Yeah,
connect.
they kind of match up to each other.
Yeah, they're actually in two spots, they connect.
But that's where when there's a lot of business, the car wash
All the cars are
lines
lined
are
up.
there.
Well, you could have it in the front also, behind the office building in the front, which is the Tortorella offices. So there's some options, cross-access.
Okay, so we need more time, if that's doable. David,
Sure.
can you give us
Yep.
some time on this?
Do you want this back on the 12th, or you want to wait till the 9th?
Let's do it to 12. And if there's an issue, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
What's the one after that is January?
9th. There's only one meeting in December.
I know, and that's a very heavy agenda now, so we're gonna be crammed. David, can you
Take
go
the
to
9th.
the 9th? To Jan 9, 2025.
You have to do a resolution.
Thank you very much. Motion to extend
secret deadline.
secret deadline to January 9, 2025. Motion by Kate. Second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed agenda. 5 in favor, 2 absent.
Okay, sorry online for taking so long. This is quick. It is a deem incomplete.
Where are you now?
This is Chrysler Dodge, last item on the agenda.
Yes, number 24.
This is to deem the site plan incomplete. We're waiting town engineer. They need some more information to process the application.
Okay. Motion to deem this incomplete by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. You're done, Claire?
I am.
Thank you very much. Now it's the Premi show or the Anthony show?
Oh, is that the Anthony show?
Anthony wants to go last,
I
so.
was gonna go last, yeah.
I think I.
So then it's Premi.
Yeah, one no.
You have 19, Townsend? of
No,
course.
She's 17.
1004 Montauk
Oh, yeah,
Highway.
just, yeah.
17 and 19.
1004 Montauk.
Number 17.
Yeah, 17. It's right down here at the end of the paper. Oh, this side. It's a good system.
But her Bernie had a type in this book. This is a new book.
My assistant keeps a book like that.
Just left it.
Change and change.
Are those extras?
Yeah, no.
Can I give you
Well, you found a good
Did you read
system.
those with me, or you-
George.
The two that you gave me back.
You want this?
Thank you. Wait, now what is, there were two different ones.
Did you want,
Area T and one is full, absolutely.
did you want this?
No, quite not.
Do you want these quick?
This is Area T also.
Do you want these quick?
There was a smaller one that was full of that before. It might have been, yeah.
Prema, where'd you go?
She's
Where's
there.
Prema? Oh, I didn't see you.
Sorry, she's hiding behind me.
I can start if you like.
Please.
This is 1004 Montauk Highway. It's the proposed medical use building at the corner of Willow Road and Montauk Highway next to
Oh,
Prada.
yes, yes.
This is before you were initiating the coordination of SECRA. It was last, before you in September. It was incomplete, but we now have all the information to move forward. It's an unlisted action. And since the parcel fronts Montauk Highway and the applicant is proposing to transfer credits to offset sanitary flow, I'm recommending a coordinated review with the New York State DOT and the county.
That's our action? Coordination? Okay.
Coordination.
Motion? Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, all in favor. Aye. Opposed, abstentions. 5 in favor, 2 absent. And then Prema, you have 19, Townsend of Noyak Road.
Yes. Maybe I'll just stay up here because I have 2 in a row.
Yes, and then you have John Peter Lauren.
This is a completeness for a 2-lot subdivision. This is Townsend, right?
Townsend.
4490 Montauk Highway.
Noyak Road.
Oh, yeah. Noyak Road. I'm on a Montauk Highway. Let me pull it up so you can.
And what you're giving us is John Peter Lauren, not
I did?
Townsend.
Yeah, I have my
This
order
is the
wrong.
next one, we'll
Oh,
keep
that's the
this.
next one. You might want to hang on to it. That way I don't
George,
make this
this is the next one.
Thank you.
Seth, I'm
This is number
sorry,
20.
you
It's quite all right.
have 1, right?
Yes.
Oh, did you want to sneak in?
He's always the last guy on
I don't need to do that, Seth. It's a re-veg?
No, it's a site plan.
Okay.
Completeness.
George. Okay, Townsend of Noyak Road.
Townsend, 4490 Noyak Road. It's sort of on the east end of Noyak, just before you get to Brick Hill. It's a 2-lot subdivision. We're considering completeness so we can set the hearing date.
Okay.
1.15 acre in R15 zoning. There is an existing residential dwelling on the lot, or what would be lot 1. And the application is complete.
It is complete, even though you've got some notes here, like not ownership, not excess street.
Oh yeah, those are, they're not enough to deem it incomplete. They've addressed everything that we need to move forward. Yeah.
So you want to schedule a public hearing for what, the 9th?
The 9th of January, yeah.
Okay, so we'll deem this complete and Jan 9, 25. Motion by Gloria and second by Kate. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions? 5 in favor, 2 absent. And then you have number 20, we have the paperwork. John Peter Lauren.
John Peter Lauren, 2899 Noyak Road. This is close to Millstone and is it Cedar Point Lane, I think? Yeah, Cedar Point Lane. This is the lot here, the one outlined in red. This is for another 2-lot subdivision. We're considering completeness to set the hearing. It was deemed incomplete, I forget when, I think it was in July. But we do have everything now, updated maps, updated flagging of the wetlands. And it's complete. I think someone's here, Joe Lombardi's here if you have any questions, but we're looking for a
January 23rd.
January 23rd hearing date.
Motion. Any questions, Joe? That's it? Okay, we're deeming complete, scheduling it for January 23rd, 2025, public hearing. Motion by Gloria, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 5 in favor, 2 absent. You're done, Brenna?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Seth. Number 22, 97 School Street.
So this is this very small lot behind the Candy Kitchen, next to the town parking lot there. Currently, it is owned by Round Swamp, excuse me, Farm Market
Good
Retail. It is before you, it came before you as a pre-submission, which we've determined it for a pre-submission conference, which will not be necessary. I've gone through 33184 and it is exempt from a pre-submission conference. However, there are a number of variances throughout the years on this lot, and it's going to take me a minute to figure out if they need a variance or not. So I have to that would make it incomplete at this point.
Okay.
My gut is it will need it. It's also a residence, and it's a conversion of a garage. The area there, the little building there on the west, it's 528 square feet. So we're going to deem it incomplete and establish if a variance is going to be required.
Okay. Motion to deem this incomplete by George, second by Tom. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions? 5 in favor, 2 absent. Is that, do they own that lot? Do
Yes.
They do.
I'll
Anthony.
All right.
The Anthony Trezor
That's it.
Show.
Number 11, which is Heatherwood at Hampton Bays. We're just actually doing an extension of the action deadline until December 12th.
Extension to December.
Yeah, that's the mixed-use development in Hampton Bays. So,
Okay. Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions? 5 in favor, 2 absent.
That's interesting date.
Yeah. That's our last.
I'm handing out the report and resolution for Richard Avedon.
Richard Avedon, number 12.
This is the old Bridgehampton road races subdivision there. This was the parcel sitting right out there in the middle. CR 200 zoning district, aquifer protection overlay district. The application is They had a determination from the chief building inspector a couple of years ago that this qualified as a, under the provisions of, not a
Archival
museum, but it was like
museum?
it's an archive, so they fit it under educational institutions, fraternal organizations. It's not open to the public. It's an archives building, sitting out in the middle of the woods. Can't see it. It's pretty
Good place for an archive.
It's pretty benign.
It's pretty benign. It's not here.
No tours or anything like that?
No tours. Just an archive. So, you know, and you can see.
It'll be musty photographs, not just paper.
That's true. That's absolutely true. 35% clearing. You can see a big swath of the property is going to remain in natural vegetation. Most of that pre-existing clearing you see from the old original. Sits right in there where most of the development's going. So they pretty much laid this out as good as
It
you
looks
could.
like the driveway takes up as much clearing as the property.
Yeah, probably does. And
They didn't need a sign, I remember that. There was no sign.
yeah, I put it in there if they want one. They have to ask for permission. So if you
So
just
going over the report?
Yeah, we'll go over the report real quick because this is not a complicated site plan. So I described the project, secret classification. This was an unlisted action, and this is one where I had the zoning board do the neg deck on it instead of bringing it back here. So, so that was done. No public comments at the hearing. The zoning board granted relief for this project because of the road frontage here. This strip is only 50 feet wide or so. The special exception criteria for that use, their specific standards, requires a 200-foot road frontage. One can make the argument that, you know, effectively, the whole purpose of it is so that you don't have visual impacts and that you could deal with scale. The zoning board looking at this said this is sitting in the middle of the woods, so we've, you know, that 200 foot
No
is not
visual
necessary
impact.
yet. Referrals, we had the fire prevention, and they're just recommending, and the applicant's aware of it, they're going to do it. They would like a hydrant put somewhere in here, because it's a little far, we're going into the woods here, so that makes sense. And I think that that's a good idea.
So they have to bring water in from that main
Well, I think there's
road?
water up there, actually.
Or the other way, Anthony?
But they actually have to put a fire hydrant near the building?
They want it at the in their drive around area.
Okay.
That's where they're
So
recommending.
the water on the means, on.
Yeah, and then there's a public water in the road already, Jackie, so.
Okay.
Yep. And then their basic requirements. Town engineer gave his requirements, and he recommended engineer approval actually, subject to the conditions there, and they're just minor map changes ultimately. So the big thing is the SWIP, obviously over an acre of disturbance, so they'll have to get a SWIP in with the speedies. Bridgehampton Fire District didn't have any comments. Highway Department.
Is it the Bridgehampton Fire Department?
Yeah.
Huh.
Is it the
It's so far away, I don't know, it's far
Yeah,
away.
no. You know what? Now that you say it, Jackie,
Check it.
let me make sure I put the right.
Well, what would it have been if it wasn't?
Well, it could be Noyak or.
No,
North Sea
North
or
Sea
Bridgehampton,
it's not
right?
North Sea. There is
Yeah,
no
Noyak- does
Noyak
Noyak
Fire
have a
Department.
fire
It's Sag
department?
Harbor.
Noyak doesn't have.
Harbor
No, I
or
didn't think Noyak
Yeah,
did.
it doesn't.
Noyak. What it says up here, Noyak Protection
Fire district?
Yeah.
What is it?
Noyak.
Noyak.
So that's probably like co-operated by Bridgehampton and North Sea, whoever gets the call.
Exactly. Let me fix that.
Because there is no North Sea, no Noyak Fire Department.
North Sea and Bridgehampton.
Yeah.
Highway Department, no recommendation. Suffolk County Planning, Economic Development and Planning, matter for local determination. The ARB approved it with no changes on October 1st. The next section are the special exception criteria, which are the general ones. Here, just, you know, big thing with this project, this is good. You know, they're going to do a third of the parking as land banking because we don't need the parking.
No.
They're also doing permeable grass pavers for the
Nice.
regular parking. The woman can stay here. They've agreed they'll put in, because there's 38 parking spaces, they'll put in the 2 charging stations. Are we doing that? So we'll put that in the resolution. So, I mean, you know, they're doing a pretty good job here, I think, overall with this site plan. So the special exception criteria, they're meeting their parking, there's no parking demand, there's no traffic impacts, they're maintaining the clearing, they're maintaining buffers. So rather than go through A through M on the general standards, I'd say it's listed out here and this project complies with the general standards. The big thing I did put in there was as it relates to compliance with zoning and everything, we got the interpretation from the chief, who was Dennis at the time, and then O'Rourke, and then this was reconfirmed by Sean McDermott. So I made sure that was in there. There's also specific standards on page 7. You know, the big one was the 200 feet, which they got relief from. 3 acres it requires. This property's 5.5, almost 5.5. So that's good. There's no historic or cultural significant buildings in the area. They're not proposing any, quote, intensive outdoor activities. They've stated that on the record. And they, you know, do indicate if there are going to be any intensive outdoor activities, we would have to know about that, and it would be subject to further review. But right now, they're not proposing any. Outdoor lighting, we just put in our standards regarding adherence to dark sky. We stick with the no higher than 10 feet. No outdoor public address or music system, which is a condition of the approval. And they talk about private kitchens and bars. A lot of times these organizations have them for the members. Their floor plans don't show any. They said they don't have any plans for that at this time. So,
Do you want to reference the new 2700?
has it been adopted by the state yet? That's the question.
Oh, I see. Oh, we've been including it.
We've been putting it in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll put that in, Kate. That's good. And then the rest of the report goes through, you know, the site plan standards. Again, you know, they're providing all the parking. We're going to do land bank parking. They have the ADA compliant spaces, and they will be properly improved. No archaeological sensitive area. The engineer has done his review. The ARB's approved this. And we encourage the applicant to do the green. The parking is a nice green design. I think the applicant said you'll do the 2 charging stations. That's great. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward site plan. There's no agriculture in the area, so that's not applicable. So if you go to the second, which is just the resolution, I'll just go through it real quick. Changes to the site plan, as required by the town engineer, per the Office of Fire Prevention, including the location of the fire hydrant. And if one's proposed a dumpster location with code-compliant fence and landscaping, it's not type of use that, you know, but even office uses have dumpster locations. So if one's being proposed, we should see it. Changes to the lighting plan. So to your point, Kate, I'm going to change that language.
27.
Elizabeth, just the language in the line is going to change. Our code is changing. So the Kelvin's going to drop from 3,000, I think, to 2,800. So we'll reference the new regulation. 2,700, sorry. Wow.
Dim the lights.
10 people made sure I got that right. So we'll add that. Changes to the landscaping. So I'm just recommending
Trees along the driveway.
trees along the
Very
driveway
nice.
might look nice. I know they're maintaining all the vegetation, but I think
Would
street
look
trees would
lovely.
look really lovely. Any interior landscaping, provide the planting specifications and details. Existing cleared areas outside of the development, which will just be left to revegetate. It'll actually decrease the amount of clearing. And it's really just, as you can see, a little area over here and a little area over here. If they're so inclined to, just let it.
Put some blueberries in.
Blueberries, nice and simple. And then because they have that drive-up area, I don't know if there's a center, is there a center like landscape island in there? Okay. If there was, if that we wanted to see that landscape. General conditions of approval, all signage is subject to review and approval. No public address or sound systems. The area of disturbance shall be staked out prior to construction and inspected by planning staff. The engineering fees, $4,800. All HVAC and mechanical systems shall be screened and not visible from the roadway or adjacent properties, and certainly not visible on top of the buildings. Dark sky compliant lighting, the no installation of dusk dawn lighting fixtures, No additional lighting without further planning board approval. All lighting shall be shielded and directed downward. Submission of an affidavit indicating compliance with the site plan, requirements. Any approvals that might be needed from the town highway department prior to issuance of any building permits. And then arranging for a pre-construction meeting with engineering prior to starting construction. To be completed prior to signature. Town engineer approval of the final maps and the SWIP. Submission of a land bank covenant for the 12 parking spaces. So that's a requirement. You got to have a covenant for that. And the covenant basically says that it'll be at this board's discretion to open it up if you decide that it's necessary. The notarized affidavit, and then the 6 sets of plans for signature. And then based on the landscaping, a maintenance bond. Beyond that, pretty straightforward.
Any comments?
When do we see the landscaping plan?
With everything else, as you're meeting the conditions, just give it to me. And just give me everything to review before you submit final maps.
Motion to approve by Tom, second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Number 13, Howard Irrevocable
Is
Living
off the
Trust.
agenda.
Is off the agenda. So then we're moving to number 15, Hampton Cove Estates.
That's going to be an extension until December 12th. Just so the board knows, I'm still working with them to see about septic system on that property.
Okay, motion to extend to December 12 by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. And then Anthony, you have number 18.
Yep, 911 Flanders. They just keep extending this. You know, we had the conditional neg deck, so they've extended the secret action deadline until January 9th of 2025.
To 1925. Okay, we're forgetting that conditional like that completely, remember?
That was Frith we were talking about.
Oh,
that
Frith.
one. We're getting our conditional neg decks all this stuff.
Okay, so, motion for the extension till
Motion.
1/9, motion by Gloria and second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent.
3310 Noyak.
Noyak, yep,
This is Judge Burke's property where we looked at.
oh, yeah,
So we just had them start over because the project's
Oh,
changing.
yes.
So it's going to be a phase. This is a pre-submission, by the way. So
Pre-submission.
we're not formal. The plan initially we were going to have 14 and all sorts of stuff, but health department regulations become an issue. The other side of it is when you're doing 8 or 10 or 12 affordable housing units and you got to put in the sewage treatment, it makes it hard to do affordable housing then. So
Yeah.
we're working with the applicant here. What they're going to do is maintain this existing house, and then they're going to do
big house.
the
Yeah.
big house.
big house. They're doing two apartment buildings with 4 apartments in each for a total of 8 in this case.
All affordable?
All affordable, 100% affordable.
Mm.
2 phases. They could do the 4 with no fanfare from the health department, and then we got to try to help them on the other 4. So right now we're just going to schedule the pre-submission conference for this, January 23rd.
Okay, motion for January 23rd, motion by Gloria, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. Then 23 is Rabbit Hole Restaurant,
Yeah, this is the
restaurant.
one right near. We had the discussion.
It's like
It's right near Edgewater.
Edgewater,
Right.
next to
And-
Edgewater.
2 houses or
2. That's right. 2 different structures
Two
for 2 different.
structures.
Right.
So we're on a pre-submission actually, so they submitted for a pre-submission. They're showing parking. They're showing an addition to the existing building for a restaurant. They don't show anything over here for that second,
They have another structure.
accessory.
Yeah.
They show it being removed. However, I will say they did get a determination from the chief building inspector that you can in fact have the second structure with an accessory clam bar or an accessory. That would not be considered a second use. So if they did go in that direction,
Huh.
he made that determination. But in any case, this is just a pre-submission, so let's schedule it for January 23rd.
123, 25, motion by Gloria and second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, 2 absent.
And then just, I think that's all I had. And then I was doing a walk-on, it was sort of an emergency walk-on, Wayne and
For Wayne,
Right, yeah. So this is the Lewis Road PRD, and And now we're getting to that time of year where people can start clearing because of the bat window.
Right.
They'll explain, there were some changes that were made to the conservation management plan in accordance with the pine barrens, because there was a fire, there was dead vegetation, so they had to make some changes, but we require to see those changes, and, you know.
Lord.
So good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And, thank you for squeezing us on. Wayne Bloom and Shay Sensitive Crew for the applicant, DLB Quag, LLC, as well as Brant Rand from Nelson Pope and Voorhees. We handed you out for the record. We'll try to summarize and keep this very brief. But if you recall, there's open space conservation areas that are in and around and north of the development area on the property that remain owned by the homeowners association, subject to the conservation easement.
Where are they?
And the conservation easement provides that we can't disturb or do any management of any of those lands without permission from this board pursuant to a conservation management plan. And
Is
similarly,
that the Parlato stuff up there? No.
no, this is
This
all
is within the
this is
development.
development area.
Yeah.
And Anthony, I don't know if you have the
Can you make it bigger?
maps also that I think we emailed you these maps, but sorry we don't have a large map.
Okay, you
But
just hold it up.
so if you recall, this is Spinney Road through this part, and this is the development area, and Brant will explain this. I just want to, so the question for the planning board is to approve authorization for certain clearing of dead and diseased material that are dead and diseased by virtue of the pine beetle.
Yeah.
And, you know, Brant will describe this, but essentially we went to the Pine Barrens first for a general conservation management plan with respect to certain areas that had invasive species. You recall there's one area with bamboo in there.
Mhm.
If you go out there right now, you will not even, you can't even tell that it was even disturbed. We've taken the bamboo out, revegetated, it looks natural. And one of the most important things our client has done is every time there's clearing, when they're clearing the golf course or otherwise, whatever plant material they could salvage, they salvage. And we have a plant nursery.
Yeah.
You might have
Yeah,
been out there and saw
that.
that.
We saw it.
So that is all going to be used in areas. But what has happened is certain areas, you can see briefly on this, the orange areas.
Is that just up here, Wayne?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So those orange areas are 12 areas, they're all subject to conservation easement that have been basically decimated by the pine beetle. But just backtracking, the conservation management plan was submitted to the Pine Barrens back in the spring. In May, they approved that plan. The general process included the bamboo areas, so on. To supplement that now, in light of what we've encountered this fall with a dry season and these areas decimated, we reached out to the DEC, their forest manager. You'll see correspondence here that they've accepted and want us to follow the protocol. But most importantly, 2 weeks ago, within the last 2 weeks, there was a fire on site that took place because kids on dirt bikes were using the property and wanted to have a fire pit, and there was a fire that the Quag Fire District had to put out. And there was another fire you might have recalled up near the Sunrise Highway in this vicinity. So they basically approached DLV and said, you've got to do something about these areas. This is just a time bomb waiting to explode.
Did you define they?
The fire district.
Okay.
Fire department. So Brant can take it from here, but basically they reached out to the various entities, whether it's the DEC and the Pine Barrens, and we worked with Pine Barrens staff. And yesterday the Pine Barrens had their monthly meeting. It was here. They did put us on the agenda, and they did provide they did approve our proposed management plan, which is basically to take out the dead and diseased material. Brant can describe the methodology, but it's all going to be done by hand. so as to minimize any disturbance of the understory that's there. So, because the regrowth is what we're looking for. But we need to take out all that dead and diseased material, be taken off, grounded and taken off site. So it doesn't remain. The fire district says, we don't even want you spreading wood chips. Normally you'd spread wood chips. And they said, we don't want that here. We don't want anything to be a source of fuel for potential fires. So if there's anything else, I gave a brief overview, but if you have specific questions, but we're basically here because the other issue, no matter what, we are limited to the December 1st to February 28th limit for touching anything in this area. So that's why we're here today. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get to you in the middle of December, and by the time they can mobilize and get this going. So we're trying to do this. The fire district wants us to get down to going as soon as possible.
So you're going to work in all those orange areas? Is that what you're going to be doing?
Yes. So, sorry.
I was just going to ask, what has Pine Barrens said?
Okay.
You said you met with them yesterday.
So Discovery, this fire happened, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe slightly before that, but it sent them into an emergency situation. The fire department says, you guys have a major issue here. We need to get this under control now. So they come to us and they say, hey, we've got this situation. What can we do? We establish a protocol that basically says you need to get rid of all of this fuel that's really feeding into your fire situation. So let's get those trees out of there, and that will help to solve the situation. First step was we have to work with the Pine Barren Commission to do that. How do we do that? We have a conservation management plan in place. We have grants of conservation easements in place. Both of those documents speak to the ability for the owner to maintain dead and diseased, or what they say, noxious vegetation. So what we're asking to do, and the protocol will speak to that, I'll get to that to a second, within these identified areas, and these are areas that were identified using drone imagery. We didn't actually field verify this. This was drone imagery taken, used by Discovery Land Corp. But we will field verify it and actually stake off the areas as part of the protocol, take down all of the dead or infested trees and remove them, not quite by hand, surgically as we can, but where we can't take them out by hand, they would use light track machinery to disperse, weight dispersal traction to minimize the impacts to the soils. So the idea is that we remove the material that is dead, which are the pine trees that were infested with the southern pine beetles, and then allow all of the existing vegetation and seed stock to remain. The Pine Barren Commission is very interested in allowing self-heal where absolute possible, and only actively restoring with new vegetation as a last resort. The beauty of this project is, along the way, as they were clearing, or before they were clearing the site to do the development, our office was working with them to collect seed and actually transplant mature material from the site and grow the seed or store the seed, and then also continue to grow the transplanted material off-site so that it can be used for situations just like this. So we planned ahead, and it's going to work out for everybody involved, so we can actually put the site back into its natural habitat after we get the dead materials out. So you have a big packet of material in front of you. Basically what it says, the cover letter says, we have a conservation management plan in place. It speaks to this, our ability to do this. And then it further describes the fire that happened, the recommendations from the fire district. It said you need to take action right now. There's also a letter in there, as Wayne said, from the DEC forester, John Marnett, who says, this is a problem. You guys need to take care of this. We support this from the DEC Forestry Division. And your protocol is properly outlined. You also have in here a copy of the conservation management plan, a copy of the easement, and then a copy of the Pine Barren Commission's approval letter from May of 2024 that recognizes the conservation management plan. And finally, a draft letter from the Pine Barren Commission that approves the methodology that we put into place for this minimally invasive tree removal. This is not a clearing exercise. This is a surgical tree removal within these conservation management areas. And the protocol is outlined. I can walk you through it if you feel necessary, but it's all in the packet for your records. We have demonstrated that we can do this, and the owner is willing to take on
So are you
the cost.
cutting down dead trees? Is that basically what you're clearing?
So
The pine tree.
yes, we're cutting down just the pine trees that are dead or infested
Clearing
with
out
it.
the undergrowth?
No, just the trees.
Just the trees?
Yeah, as the trees come down, they will be cut up, moved off, chipped up, and the chippings. So another point of clarification: a vast majority of the chippings will be removed. Only a small amount will remain for a light ground cover to help with any disturbed soils, so that there's no erosion issues.
So you like also identify what the definition of disease or infested tree and take those down as well, which would make sense.
Yes. Yes. So if they're impacted by the southern pine beetles, there's no need to let them stand because they're going to be dead in a few months anyway.
Did
So
Pine Barrens Commission have anything to say about this infestation?
They have a whole issue going on side issue, the whole program and protocol
Do
that they're
they?
discussing. Yeah.
Because boy, areas of our,
when you drive
of our area
along
have just been
27,
decimated.
we were actually trying to get them early on to do an early intervention using this site as a pilot program
Mhm.
because we had the financial means to do it here and say, hey, let us show you how this can work. And they just couldn't
A
really
test,
get
yeah.
to the agreement, to see how it was going to happen.
We
Yeah.
were up there, what, 6 weeks ago, a month ago? Well, they were
And it
checking
was just
some
all-
things out.
yeah.
and
And we were there a few months before that. You could see the difference between when we
Yeah.
were there 6 months ago versus a couple months ago. It's
Right.
just stunning.
So the idea is that we will survey these areas, or the areas will be surveyed. The areas in orange will be surveyed. Project limiting fences will be put along those areas. They will be inspected by the Pine Barren Commission. Actually asked that the town do the inspections, as was done during the original clearing. So our office will work with the town to make sure those inspections happen, and then we will monitor along the way to ensure that the activity is actually being undertaken properly and the area be put back into its natural habitat,
Right.
either through self-heal or through active.
Sounds like a good
Do you
thing.
know, are the dirt bikers going up Spinney? Because there had been a fence there.
Yeah.
There was a
that was
gate
taken
that the
down
highway
about-
department maintained, and then the current superintendent took the gate down.
I think he said that you folks had asked that it be removed.
No.
I questioned
No, we've asked for
that
it to
being
be
removed.
replaced, and that has not occurred.
You did? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, for the very reason you're describing is to keep the dirt bikers out of that area.
The idea
I
is
questioned
that
why
all
that
of
was removed when it happened.
all of the access comes off of Lewis Road. As you can see, that entranceway is now fully functioning. So, yeah, it would help to keep people off of the property for this reason.
Well,
So,
particularly
Wayne, what
in
do we
this
need to do
environment that's so
from
fire
the commission?
sensitive.
Yeah,
So
we're
Anthony-
experiencing some really trying times right now.
I just have one point.
Well,
The letter that Gloria and you asked, the letter from Pine Barrens that they had as a draft on their agenda and they discussed, they wanted some modifications to it, so we didn't get the final. We would hope to get it today. We asked if possible because we might be meeting with you. But essentially, they wanted, number one, what Brant said is they want the town to be involved in the inspections, and they want some sort of as-built final inspection to make sure that it was all done, and that's done by the town. So there will be a modification, but this was all generated because on November 7th is when, after the fire was on October 27th, we generated a letter and to them, and they put it on their agenda for this month early on, and the whole discussion was based on that. In the meantime, Brant's office was having conversations with the Pine Barrens staff. And so Brant showed up yesterday with additional information, so there was an additional letter, which is part of the package. And so their letter is going to refer to that additional information and a couple other comments, but essentially they adopted this final report we should have, and we'll supply that with you.
And you'll submit that to Anthony?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think then, I think I heard Christine say something over there about a resolution. The idea, I mean, what you're looking for is a resolution to approve a modified conservation management plan.
Well, this is, we're not modifying, we're adding to it.
Or you're implementing the conservation management in there, because it says you can come in and do this subject to planning board approval.
Right, it's just a resolution recognizing that the easement doesn't allow us to do that without your authorization, so the resolution would pursuant to the easement authorize us to do this work only.
So you're not modifying.
We're just acknowledging that you
implementing
almost
this,
giving approval
these
Due to the circumstances.
Yeah, we
What's
submit.
the word?
They're going to be implementing the conservation management plan to authorize the applicant to do the targeted tree management plan pursuant to whatever plans they gave us.
And approved by the Pine Barrens.
And approved by the Pine Barrens.
Do we want
Subject to all previous approvals, or such as the inspections and the as-built.
Do
I
we
was going to
wanna-
say I wanted to.
Do we
Okay,
want
so
to
we'll
write
write
anything
that
in there
up.
100%.
due to fire safety risk or anything?
We are.
You gotta
Staff
bring
has
that
been
through
doing-
Tom too. I think Tom did a lot of the inspections.
I don't know, whoever.
Me, Claire, and Tom.
Okay.
And George and Tom go look all the time.
And then I think
Well,
you were
you're
talking
welcome to
about
inspect
You
too.
guys look all the
I know,
time.
and I want to go back and see what's going on because it was really impressive. So in here it references the report of Discovery's activities by year end in terms of the restoring and revegetation areas of
That
the
was
site.
separate.
That's what you're,
That was the other things, such as where the other part of the conservation management plan, that is in the works, and we're doing that for them.
okay.
That's
And
sort
could
of
we-
like the
Could we
bamboo
be
area.
copied on that, just so
Absolutely.
that we're all,
Absolutely.
rounded together? So I don't know if you want to put that.
Yeah,
somewhere in the
everything
resolution.
we submit to them, we try to copy you guys.
So, Anthony Beck, so you're gonna draft a resolution, is that what you're gonna do? Do we wanna put something in there
No,
about
we-
due to the
You're approving
circumstances?
something now, so you can get
Right.
the clearing done.
Right.
Yeah,
So
but
the resolution will follow.
we're going to put in,
Due
you
to
know,
the fire
whereas that
risk
there
or-
was a fire,
Right,
and
okay.
that there was a pine beetle
So
infestation.
we have a record of why we did it.
100%.
Right.
On this one, 100%.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so motion to approve this,
I mean,
what are we
Action.
calling it?
Conservation management.
Conservation by George, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Motion by Gloria, second by Kate.
The one you emailed?
We are 5 in
I'll take
favor,
it for a
2
copy.
absent. We are adjourned.
Happy
I
Thanksgiving, everyone.
I have one, that's an extra.
Everybody.
I'm going home and studying.